All right, killers. Episode 5. This is a good one. We're going to cover chapters 12 through 14. We discuss the Chandrian signs, learn about the great, almighty, powerful Grey Dalcenti, the man of few words. We're also going to speculate on how yoked Haliax is, as he's also the ultimate emo character. And we then talk a lot about Bast and Chronicler, explain why you might want to empty your bowels before listening to our upcoming theories on future episodes, and why Fitz fears pterodactyls. Then we're going to debate the massive hole that Rothfuss left in the book, which will eventually cause old Patty to get laughed and booed off stage at a Comic-Con. And we're going to end strong by solving the missing words to Arladin's poem. Fantastic. Enjoy it.
Welcome back, you killers, to the uttermost killer broadcast, King Killer Podcast. Tonight, I'll be joining my good friends, Pseudonym Tim and Anagram Dan. Would you guys like to know what they are?
Sure.
Well, okay then. Tim's pseudonym is Pseudonym Tim, and Dan's anagrams are Nad and And.
Well, that was a huge
big
letdown. That was a huge letdown.
Letdown?
Wow.
You didn't think that fit?
Why not Nad?
He did
I
say
said Nad.
which I knew Nad, but then he said and is another one.
That's all there is. Hey, it's not my fault your name has 3 letters and it's a terrible anagram name.
It is if you decided. If you decided to point it out.
The uttermost.
Because it's not very
uttermost,
interesting.
like we're a fucking cow. Milk.
That's
Which kind of works because we are milking the shit out of these openings.
Yeah,
well, that's what you used to say back on the farm.
Yeah,
dairy farm.
That was weak. It's a very weak opening.
Okay. Well, that gives me my nickname then tonight too, because depending on how it went, I was either going to be Quickwit Fitz or Dimwit Fitz. So I guess I'll go with Dimwit Fitz Werskowitz. And I'll dive right in.
Dimwitted, yeah.
Yeah, definitely worse.
Yeah, that's the joke, Tim.
Definitely
that's
the worst.
the joke. Okay. I thought it was extremely clever, and I just think that you guys are expecting too much. Anyway,
now my expectations were very low to begin with.
I was going to say, when the bar is as low as it already is, and you still manage to go below it,
it's impressive. It's an
accomplishment.
It's the most impressive limbo maneuver that you could possibly accomplish.
How low?
Okay,
can
then
you go?
Maybe I guess I'll be Quickwit Fitz Beskowitz tonight then. Okay, good deal. Chapter 12 is called Puzzle Pieces Fitting. In this chapter, Kvothe eavesdrops on his parents and Scarpy. He hears them talking about the Chandrian, and we learn that Arladin is making a song up about him. Then Ben explains to Kvothe's parents that he's a genius and he should go to university.
Yeah,
guys,
and it's great because we get a lot of the big hitters in the book in this chapter. Like when you're going through for the first time, you're getting a lot of major characters from the past in this world. Lanre, Lyra, what's his name? The singer, Ilian. Yeah. Ilian. You get some major fucking hitters in the world in this chapter. And obviously the Chandrian and Haliax, but
yeah, it's huge.
It's your first introduction to these people, and it's major as far as like how central a role they play in this world, and this is kind of your first little introduction to them.
There's a lot of foreshadowing, but more like topical or subjective foreshadowing. We learn a lot about Kvothe and how exceptional he is. Yeah, there's a lot of like table setting accomplished within this chapter.
Yeah.
In the playful back and forth between Kvothe's parents is that tends to come up now and again. I always like to see, that Kavoth came from a good, loving family, and even though he went through his hard times, like he still had that example.
Yeah, this is big on the family itself, the dynamic, how his parents cared for him, how he saw their relationship, how he comes out of that as the individual he is. A lot of with Ben and Kavoth, and then also his development in itself. Yeah, it's really quite rich with a lot of subject matter that's going to loom large for the future.
Yeah, like I mean, his example of his parents' relationship, I think it plays a pivotal role in who he becomes, as he gets older. Like I think a lot of these scenes when he's younger play significant roles into who he becomes. Rothfuss did a real good job of laying the track work for why this guy is the way he is as he gets older. Like the way he treats women, the way he looks at relationships, the way he looks at love, and all those kind of things. I think a significant reason for why he is the way he is based on his upbringing.
I like also the subtlety of giving us a piece of Kavoth being very thorough and thoughtful in his approach to what he does through his father's approach to writing a song. And in like Rothfuss's foreword or whatever you call it, his acknowledgments, that he kind of throws his own father that sort of a line where it's like thanking him for like being thorough and I probably should have read it if I'm going to bring this up, but yeah,
he basically credits them with his ability to be a storyteller based on his upbringing with them and kind of teaching them how to tell stories and that kind of thing.
Yeah. If I was going to do something, I should take my time and do it right the first time. That's very much in Kavoth. And we get a piece of that from his father writing this song and working on it for such a long period and painstakingly working on it with him and his wife involved. So that he puts all of himself into these things. He doesn't half-ass it very clearly. And Kavoth, I can't think of an example where he half-asses. He's actually very frustrated when he can't do things exceptionally, and then he just chooses to not do them at all, basically. Although I think of alchemy when I say that, but other than that, I mean, I don't know. It seems like everything else he throws himself almost, fully into.
For certain, whatever he throws himself fully into, he masters. He doesn't. He's not lacking for hard work and determination and work ethic. That is definitely not lacking in him. But like also like on his parents, their relationship together, I think that also kind of explains his relationship with Denna, a part of it, and that he has this ideal of this like perfect relationship. Like it's as good as if you were looking for an example of like perfect love, like he had a really good example of that between his parents. And so I think that would put a young kid in a position where you would not want to settle. You would be looking for like the perfect love. And so he finds this girl that he's deeply in love with, and it explains why he romanticizes it in such an intense way. I think that's what he's searching for, is his counterpoint. Like Arladin and Lorien, they were each other's counterpoints. They meshed so well together, and so Denna meshes so well with him. Like the big difference is his lack of confidence. And
self-worth,
not having that self-worth where he doesn't think he's worthy of Denna. He doesn't think that he would be a good provider for him. And I think that dichotomy of he sees how well they mesh together, and so he romanticizes that aspect of it, but then also he pulls away because he doesn't think he's worthy of having that kind of relationship with her, because he doesn't think that he could provide for her.
It's pretty great.
Can I just play?
Oh, I was just going to say, I like, just to if you're going to do devil's advocate, then I'm going to suggest how it's
Go ahead.
done. I like a lot because it's realistic. They joke with each other. They fuck with each other. He says things he shouldn't say to her in a playful manner, and she does the same thing back to him. That's how people are, man. I mean, it's really funny. I remember when I was dating my wife, went over some dude's house, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't think your relationship's gonna work." I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "You guys fight a lot." I'm like, "Fight? What the?" And it was so telling about that dude because I'm like, "This guy's gonna be alone forever," and it was because he thought that was fighting. I'm like, "Dude, that's just people messing with each other. We have fun together. You witnessed us having fun together, and you thought
Playful
that was
banner.
like." Yeah, and you thought that was like out of bounds. Like, yeah, you guys were like really, jabbing at each other. I'm like, what the fuck?
Me and you would get that a lot, just like hanging out with people that don't know us. And
that's true.
They would have those reactions, or just like our group of friends, like some
Yeah,
outsider
be like, yeah, you
comes in.
so
and
you
hangs
guys
out,
like hate each other.
Like, you guys are friends.
Yeah.
Like, all you guys do is talk shit about each other. It's like, we're joking.
Well,
We're not serious.
It's really funny though. I remember one time getting in the you didn't save the elevator for me, and some dude got in the elevator and saw that you closed it without help, like saving it for me.
Yeah.
And that guy knew, like, oh, you guys must be like really good friends.
Yeah.
Because really good friends fuck each other over in those little things.
Yeah. I don't remember that, but that sounds exactly like something I would do, and I would find it hilarious. And it sounds kind of funny right now, just thinking about it.
Yeah.
Like fucking
closing
the door in your face would be
hilarious. It kind of made me like that guy, because I'm like, yeah, he kind of gets it. Like, it's a dick move, but it's not the type of thing I'm going to be pissing mad about. Like, what the fuck?
No,
it's an elevator. I'll go up the stairs, or I'll wait 3 minutes, or not even that, 45 seconds.
So I was going to play devil's advocate and just say, in respect to Kvothe's relationship with Denna, it could be that he romanticized it. I mean, he's a little kid. He's, not a little kid, but 15 years old, and having this idealistic idea of what romance is, something to shoot for. It could be that you try to go after everything. Now, I'm writing this book with you guys, and I think that their banter is great and everything else, but you could look at it from another aspect and say, Denna's a whore, and Kvothe is a genius at university, and if he would just get his mind off Denna, he could excel at the university. But again, I'm just playing devil's advocate and saying,
I don't like all this slanderizing when we say Denna is a whore. I get that she is, but every time you say it, it bothers me. So let's clean it up a bit.
What if I pronounce it?
Hua. She's a courtesan.
She's a courtesan. Hey, and Arladin makes a very good case as to why you should call her a courtesan. Her life's hard enough. No, it's an interesting point you bring up. Just what it brings up in my mind is Kvothe's on a different path. Everybody has their own conception of what something can be. And maybe we don't know that much about Denna, and maybe her upbringing, that doesn't work at all. You know what I mean? Like, girls that I've known that remind me of Denna, that romantic shit, there's a place for it, but it doesn't kind of run their mind. You know what I mean? She doesn't want the prince in white shining armor. That's not what, or the knight, whatever. She doesn't want that. That's not what she's looking for. Like you've said multiple times, she wants a partner in crime, and Kvothe is trying to be the savior, and it's not working. We've talked about that enough, but I like kind of the idea that where Kvothe is coming from, that might create the problem. Or just
just as a reminder for the audience, this episode is in the past for us. So we've recorded multiple episodes into the future. So this is episode 5 for you. But in future episodes, we talk about like Denna and Kvothe's relationship a lot. So when Tim's like, I've talked about her being, his partner in crime, and, we've talked about this a bunch. That's going to be stuff you guys are going to come across in the future. But be prepared for, we're gonna dive into Kvothe and Denna's relationship in depthly a lot of different times.
It would be very short-sighted of us if we didn't. If we didn't, this would be a shitty podcast about this book.
And and all the different times we talk about her and all the different episodes, like it's different. There's different layers to it. Like there's different things aspects we have. We're not just rehashing the same points. Even this conversation with her, even though we've talked about the relationship a bunch of different times, this is different than the episodes in the future.
Well, yeah. So what Fitz brings up there is interesting in the sense that I haven't considered it in that sense. The fact, like, I've considered where Kavoth comes from and what he's looking for, but I hadn't really considered how that can really not mesh well with what Denna's looking for. Just you know what I mean, like the perspective going in. Because dude, he's awestruck from the beginning. This is his first love, and it's also his first like female interest that we find out about. Maybe except for Shandy, but that was more just sexual.
So going off that point, Tim, just to further what I was saying, it's easy as a kid like that to get infatuated. And the story that we're hearing about Denna is coming from Kavoth. Now, whether he's changed now that he's a 30-year-old man or however old he is, his perspective could still be that of that kid, seeing Denna and thinking, man, we really just meshed well together. But really the truth is, and I don't know what the truth is, I'm just, again, playing devil's advocate here, that potentially she wasn't right for Kavoth, and it was just a idealistic, romanticizing, and really only an infatuation.
See, though, the one aspect I would disagree on is I don't think that his infatuation for her, and it's not infatuation, he's deeply in love with her. It's beyond infatuation, but his feelings for her, I don't think that they're holding him back. I don't see any evidence for that. Like, he's excelling at an extreme rate, and he's not like screwing himself over to go pine off of her, and he's not.
I think
like when he, like, a perfect example is when he leaves her, he doesn't go to Annalyn, he goes to the university. Like,
I think when Fitz says that. Sorry, I hear you. What Fitz says that, what I hear in my mind is like he didn't take advantage of the opportunity that he had with Fella, and which, by the way, I didn't. He has an opportunity with every single woman that he approaches.
Yeah,
like every one of them insinuates they're interested, all of them, and he just kind of lets it go by, lets it go right by him because he has this already. He already has his, whatever you call it, is, he's set to Denna. Denna is his, pursuit, and everybody else is just, yeah, she's pretty, but whatever. He doesn't look at them in that way.
No, like
I was actually
go ahead.
I was actually referring to what is going to happen. Obviously, Denna. I don't. Who knows? But it seems like Denna's going to play at least some part in the demise of Kavoth.
She has to. Yeah, she has to.
Yeah.
She looms too large.
That's
man.
what I was alluding
She has to be. She has to be involved. There has to be a difficult decision that he's going to have to make, and it's going to have to be a sacrificial type situation.
But
he's going to lose something.
If we go down that route, though, I mean, his desire for revenge for with the Chandrian is had he not desired revenge for the Chandrian, he could have been, an extremely powerful arcanist, living a great life, working for, the king, and just being his, personal arcanist. Or he could have done a number of things like they talk about in this chapter. He had immense ability. So had he not had the desire for revenge, then things go differently. Yeah, obviously, he doesn't chase Denna, then probably things go a little bit differently. So, like, there's a number of things that ultimately lead to his downfall, but I don't think that they're necessarily, I wouldn't say that they're holding him back. I just think that it was just unfortunate that the things that he pursued led to some clearly negative consequences.
What I think we definitely find in this group of chapters is the crafting of our perception of who Kavoth is and who he has the potential to become. And then also we get the crafting of what the Chandrian represents. And those two things, I mean, that's the story. It's Kavoth, that's his driving force. Now he gets it's not necessarily sidetracked everything with Denna. It's part of who he becomes, but yeah, that's why I think there's going to be an ultimate. There's got to be an ultimate interconnectedness between those two things, and he's got to make a choice between them.
What Rothfuss should have did is you don't bring in the Chandrian and you don't bring in Denna. And then Kvothe grows up with a good family, has a good upbringing, and then he goes to university, he just dominates, and then he just starts working as an arcanist and just becomes like a famous, Merlin, the wizard. And, he has a really good life and nothing really bad happens to him.
That's my idea of a good story.
It's a good story.
I like it, Dan.
Yeah.
I like it.
No tension.
Yes.
Just super even keel.
Yeah, why keep bringing in these things that make things bad for him?
Gradual.
Yeah, none of these ups and downs and.
Yeah, you don't want ups and downs. You don't want tension.
All this bullshit that pulls at your heartstrings. I mean, who needs it?
I got that in my own life. I don't need that.
Just straight up, like a rocket ship. Just straight up, just nothing but success. That's the kind of story I want. But good. You have to make it good. Like, it can't suck. It's got to be like nothing but success and still super entertaining. That's the writing I'm looking for.
And then also, I do have a place in my heart for ultra realistic. I want bathroom breaks. I want him flossing, brushing his teeth, washing his hands, a lot of laundry. Like, that stuff's got to be in there because, I mean, hey, that's how we live our lives, right?
And
so
somebody trying to squeak out a fart and it ended up being real loud and everybody hearing it and it being a real awkward part of the story.
It's a good character
building.
Perfect
way to bring tension in. He's talking to a really pretty girl. And he farts, and he's super nervous.
Feels the pressure.
Whether she's going to smell it.
He feels the bubbling in his
how
guts.
do I blame, like the tension is like, how do I blame this on someone else?
Character flaws. I dig it.
Did you guys ever use the car door trick? Like you would get, as you guys were getting out of the car door.
There's no way I've ever used
hold it till then and then close the door and then fart real quick while the door is closing to mask the sound. That was one of my go-tos when I
wait, hold on. You fart as you're getting in the car and you try to mask the sound while you're sitting in the smell?
No, when you're getting out of the car. You never fart in the car. Okay. Never fart in the car.
Getting out of the car makes a lot more sense. I get that. But if you're getting out of the car, you ain't got to hide shit, right? You're on the other side of the car from whoever's on the opposite
side. The sound,
side.
It's just the sound you're trying to cover.
Yeah, no, I'm proud of mine.
The
man.
sound, I don't get it. Like, the sound is the funny part.
Yeah, that's the entertainment.
Why are you hiding the funny part?
That's the accomplishment.
You're hiding the punchline.
I earned this.
Unless
everyone
sometimes
enjoy it.
Sometimes the smell is the punchline.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Sometimes you want like a quiet release just so that punchline hits them in the face, and then that is hilarious.
Okay, so
then you put the child locks on, roll up the windows, and turn on the heat.
Just fucking hotbox him.
Put on the heat, jeez. Okay, so we do get our first taste.
Take notes, listeners. If you want to fucking impress a girl, fucking hotbox her.
More relationship advice, and it's on farting in a closed door relationship. Yeah. Okay, so we do also get the first taste of how well hidden the stories are about the Chandrian. But something I picked up, and again, these are read-throughs. I'm reading through for them multiple times. The story itself of the Chandrian, and I get a feeling on that there is an actual story. It's been disjointed, and you know what I'm saying. Like, there's an original story. There's an origin story of the Chandrian that existed at one point, and it's been blasted and metaphors have turned it into other things, and the telephone game has changed what it ends up becoming. But I get a feeling that, well, first of all, Arleden says trying to piece together the story is a fool's game. I wish I never started it. So that's kind of our introduction to the Chandrian, right? I mean, we haven't heard much. This is it, right?
Yeah.
What concrete stuff do we get from this? From what Abinthy says? I know he says he doesn't know a lot, but it seems like he knows more than he's letting on. What actual concrete stuff do we get?
Well, you get that there's like when he's like, so you think there's a, Ben asks Arladin, so you think there's original story that all the others stem from, a historical basis for Lanre. So that is the story that Scarpy is going to tell us, and a handful, probably another 15 chapters or so. And so the historical basis for Lanre is the story that Scarpy tells. And we know Arladin is piecing together, more than likely is piecing together the same story, because when he sings in a few chapters, when he sings the opening to his song, he sings a song that would mirror the story that Scarpy tells, like, love lost and risen again, or I can't remember the way he says it, but the way he says it mirrors the story that Scarpy is going to tell. So that's the first big piece, is that the story he pieced together seems to be the same story that Scarpy tells Kvothe later on. That's a huge aspect. But so then, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, this is 2 chapters from now, but we get teased, or Kvothe is teased by Ben, that he's starting to say, what do you know about Lanre? And then Kvothe starts to say what he knows, and he was like, we'll wait till you hear your father's song, and then we'll talk about it, because it could really teach you a lesson from what you've been doing, teach you a lesson towards what you're doing. So, and I was going to ask that, but you just summed it up. So the Scarpy story is the Celatos, Rocket the Eye, the Mere Terrennial. It's all that, right? It's the sacrifice.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure, because sometimes I mix that up with Trappist story.
Like the way Arladin, when he sings the opening of his song, basically what he's singing about is Lanre dying and then being brought to life, and then he speaks Lyra's name at his first reborn breath, which is it's the same story that Scarpy tells. He just doesn't get to the part where he becomes Haliax. But we know that's where Arladin's going, because he went from asking questions about Lanre and Lyra to asking questions about the Chandrian. And his focus went from Lanre and Lyra to the Chandrian. So that's our, it's I mean, it's not 100% confirmed, but it's as close to a confirmation that their stories are the same as you're going to get.
No, dude, the biggest thing that I did not realize on our first read through, that you come to realization of, Arladin cracked it.
Yeah.
He thinks he knows what they're doing. And it's like, and Ben's like, wait, what? Like, dude, tell me. And then it's like, nah, you're going to wait till the song's done. But it's like, oh, dude, reading through again, I'm like, oh man, we almost got it. We almost got what we're all waiting for. Yet, it's fucking Rothfuss, man. It's great.
Yeah, that's one of the central mysteries, is what the fuck is what is the reason the Chandrian do what they do? That is one of the central mysteries. That he's got to answer that in the 3rd book. There's just no way he can't ignore it. He's got to answer that, and Arladin has figured it out. And it's more than likely why they get fucking murked here in a few chapters.
Well, and we talked so much about the reread payoffs. This is a massive reread payoff, because when I read this again today, I was like, oh man, we were right there. We almost got it. And after knowing it's a reread, you don't get it. But you're right there, and first read through, you don't get that. You don't have appreciation for what happens.
You don't realize how much of a tease it is until you go back through it.
Massive reveal teased. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but so I didn't want to skip over it, because I thought this was really relevant as well. Is they basically break down. So when they're going back and forth with the signs of the Chandrian, he's like, "Is it 7? I think it's 7." He's like, "Yeah, it's definitely 7. Chain means 7." Again, the last episode what we talked about is it's built on this world is built on some stability from our world. Language seems built much like our own, right? Like the chain leads to Chandrian. It feels like, Greek and Roman languages that lead into where we are now.
Yeah, 100%. It was, that line was that I can answer. Ben said 7. You can hold to that with some certainty. It's part of their name, actually. Chayan means 7. Chandian means 7 of them. Chandrian. So we know for certain that there are 7 of them.
We also do.
I just wanted to learn that as we go along. That gets reconfirmed.
Yeah, we get a lot of confirmations of that. We do get a couple pieces within these chapters that Kavos' mother's pretty intelligent. She knows things Ben doesn't know. She knows things Arleden doesn't know. And these are 2 very, very intelligent people. I mean, he does a good enough job to make that pretty clear that they're world-wise. They're very experienced.
We don't know what Ben knows, though. We don't know that.
Yeah, I guess it's
like
true.
In 2 chapters when Ben is asking Kavoth, like, what do you know about Lanre? He doesn't tell Arleden and Lorien that, hey, I know the story of Lanre. He asks Kavoth about it, but he doesn't like when they're asking him about the story of Lanre and Lyra, they're talking specifically about that. He doesn't reveal that he has any conception of what the story is, but he clearly does.
Dude, I'm really conflicted with Ben, and especially from these chapters, because when he lies to Kavos' mom, Natalia, what'd you call her, Lorien?
Lorien, yeah.
When he lies to her, it bothers him. You know what I mean? Like, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
But like you said, he dips out at an odd time, and like this, they're literally talking about Lanre. They're talking about this story, and he's asking Ben for more information about it, and clearly he's holding back.
Yeah.
So
you look at the totality. He, like we talked about in episode 3, when he comes into their group. Like, why is this guy, as powerful as he is,
just wandering around?
He's got so many fucking skills, and he's just wandering around in this fucking no-horse town with this jackass mare that they don't even know what an arcanist is, or what an arcanist is capable of doing. They don't even know what kind of benefit he could provide him. Why is he there? And why, he happens to run on Kavoth's family, and he's got no money. He's broke. Like, why? Why would he do that to himself? And
also, sorry, I was going to say, when you think about it, he didn't need to use the name of the wind in that situation, right? Like, everything
was a little overkill.
Yeah, I think it was a little overkill. It wasn't really necessary, but it made it made a huge impression on Kavoth.
Yeah, well, maybe that was the point. But also, he was getting ready to get arrested.
But
yeah, I could see
that's right. Yeah,
he tried to glow the lights and shit, and tried to scare him off first. So I could see like why he used the name of the wind. I don't necessarily know if that is tied into Kavoth, but the fact that he was there when they were there, and just like his situation, just it doesn't jive with how powerful he is. Like why he would be in such a bad financial situation, and then you combine that with when he's with them, he starts teaching Kavoth, and then about things that he's going to need to be able to go after the Chandrian. And then when he's talking to his parents about the Chandrian, he doesn't let on that he understands the story of Lanre. He clearly knows the story of Lanre. He asked Kavoth about it. He clearly knows it, but he doesn't let on to them that he has any knowledge of it, really.
Well, I mean, without Ben, Kavoth doesn't go to the university. He doesn't become an arcanist. I mean, maybe, but probably none of that happens. So this again points to the fatefulness that's pulling Kavoth in a certain direction, but it also points to a mere Chandrian forces at work, at play, right?
Yeah, it 100% could be a coincidence, and it's just fate that he met Ben. Could be. But it's just with Ben, it's coincidence. They just pile on top of each other, where it's like, man, it seems like there's something more to Ben. It seems like there's something we don't know.
It's believable though. I mean, you could be a first time reader and go through it and go, there's nothing more to Ben. He's an old guy with a cart, never made things happen with his sympathy, living later on in life, and as a drifter, as a rolling stone, and he comes upon this troop who can pay him and feed him, and he can become a teacher and get a little satisfaction.
Out, gets his little
girl,
hot piece. Yeah. Gets his
As
little hot
brewer,
piece and dips out.
Yeah.
You can connect those dots and make it make sense. But the problem is that it's fucking fishy.
Well, no. All right. So
fishy.
while I can buy it, and there's strong evidence to suggest buying it, Rothfuss is too careful a writer. He's intentionally giving us suspicion for a reason.
I'm not advocating that it's actually that. I 100%.
No, I agree. No, I understand what you're saying, and I agree with. That's why I was saying it could be a coincidence.
He's too much of a springboard. I mean, he is the absolute springboard of Kavoth's arc.
For the story to go on, Abinthy has to exist.
Yeah, absolutely.
An Abinthy figure has to exist. But what doesn't have to exist is all the side characteristics. It doesn't have to be that he's broke. There could be a better explanation for why he's in that town. It could have been that he was the arcanist of that town. He was a brewer and he was making a fucking bunch of money doing that. And then he met those guys and was like, hey, man, I'd like to, get out of this one horse town. I've, done what I want to do here. Like, let's get out. It's the fact that he's broke and he's traveling the world with no money. When he's like an awesome brewer, he's got magical abilities. He could have found a million different troops to work with. Like, there's no reason for him to be an old man and be broke and be that talented, and no explanation for why he would be in that position, such a down and out position. There's no explanation for it. So the fact that the character is needed to move the story forward, his circumstances are not needed to make the story move forward. So that is what makes me question him.
I like that. I like the lack. What I appreciate about what Rothfuss does is that subtlety to insinuate through lack of explanation is great, because it keeps you guessing further, and it's not from overwriting. It's not from overwork, which is great. That lends more subtlety to it and allows us to make the connections, which is phenomenal as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. But despite that, Rothfuss's excellence and using subtleties, I would like to ask, so can we let's assume that Ben is purposefully in Kavoth's life by his own doing, knowing that Kavoth has some kind of a trajectory as a hero. So, again, on the subtleties, not ignoring those, when Ben and Kavoth's parents are talking, there's a couple times where somebody throws a log on the fire and we miss that small spot. It happens 2 or 3 times. I know one of them is he's explaining some different things about the Chandrian. That's why I was asking what the actual facts are. And I also wanted to just say, was there anything to when he said it's yoke and the yoke next? I don't know. There were just different spots where the conversation was cut, and I wondered, if we can piece together maybe what they were talking about, we might get some kind of a clue that we weren't expecting.
I mean, one, I just like the technique because it makes you want to hear it more. Just in itself, the takeaway is like, what did excellent. I miss? And that's what you're doing. It also brings on greater tension. It also puts you in the moment. It's fucking great.
It's more realistic too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it puts you there. You're in Kavoth's shoes every time little things like that. And in the 2 chapters next, same thing. He's creeping back, creeping in, thinking I might leave, but then I get caught by a word, and it's all those little things, and then I hear something, so now I miss that, and then you catch a little bit more. But to me, and I talked about this on the previous episode, it's one of those situations that makes you perk up a little bit more. Like you listen a little bit closer, and I love shit like that. I think it's great. It's really effective.
Yeah, no, it definitely makes me start, like, I have to pause and start thinking. Okay, well, what could he have said here? And I mean, I'm enough of a beginner that I have no idea what things could have been, what he could have been alluding to. But
Well, what's great too, and it's similar, is he's using Shambleman. He's pointing out all the things that people are scared of to elevate the Chandrian to that next level. And that's something, I mean, we can get more into the specifics if we want, but that's kind of the overall arching thing that is done through a lot of this conversation is people are scared of Shambleman, people are scared of the Fae, people are scared of this, and then everyone's scared of the Chandrian. So it's elevating the Chandrian.
100%. 100%
Well,
elevates them to a different level.
And what I really like that's done in the beginning is, what are they doing? What is their purpose? And that's the real mystery, isn't it? I think that's what makes them more frightening than the rest of the bogeymen you hear about in stories. A ghost wants revenge. A demon wants your soul. A Shambleman is hungry and cold. It makes them less terrible. Things we understand we can try to control, but Chandrian come like lightning from a clear blue sky. Just destruction. No rhyme or reason to it. And then that's when we get the giant tease of, well, my song will have both because I've dug it up and I know what it is. It's like, fuck, what is it, bro? Don't die.
Yeah,
Tell
and
us.
he's at this point, he's just like tied down on the details. And so he's looking for Ben to kind of spell out the details. And from that, we get some good information. We obviously don't get the reason, but we get some information where when you're going through a reread, a lot of this information that Abinthy gives is fucking spot on.
Yeah, it's accurate. Yeah.
Which also shows you that it's very possible that Abinthy is holding back information because what he gives is spot on. But it seems like he's only giving them what he wants to give them. But like they go into the, like we talked about, he goes into the 7, like I can confirm that. But then he starts going into their signs. He's like, let me think. Blue flame is obvious, of course, but I'd hesitate to attribute that to the Chandrian in particular. In some stories, it's a sign of demons. In others, it's fake creatures or magic of any sort. Obviously, blue flame, 100% Chandrian sign. We can confirm that. And then he's like, other signs, one of them is supposed to have eyes like a goat, or no eyes, or black eyes. I've heard that quite a bit. I've heard that plants die when the Chandrian are around. Wood rots, metal rust, brick crumbles. He paused. Though I don't know if that's several signs or all one sign. So, we know
the black
eyes like
cinder.
A goat is cinder.
Yeah.
That's clear as day. That's definitely cinders. And then you have the other signs where plants die, wood rots, metal rust, brick crumbles, and plants die. So we know the signs of the Chandrian. We've received those from Cheyenne, or whatever her name is, in Adim, when she tells Kavoth the story, the Adim story about the Chandrian. When he asks her, he's like, hey, I'm desperate to know this information. She tells him a story about the Chandrian, and she tells him their names and their signs. So the names she tells were Siphus bears the blue flame, Sturkis is in thrall of iron, Faerul, chill and dark of eye, which the fact that Cinder's name, that she calls him Faerul, and when Kavoth sees Haliax and Cinder face to face, Haliax calls Cinder Faerula or whatever when he names him. When he fucking racks his body full of pain, he's like Faerula or whatever.
Shit. So
we know these names are fairly fucking accurate. So Faerula, chill and dark of eye. Uznea lives in nothing but decay. Grey Dalcenti never speaks, which is a super lame superpower. It's the lamest superpower you could have, is you just don't talk.
He just leans against walls and looks up at you. Looks down his nose
extremely
at you.
Cool.
He does a lot of nodding. Cool. Yeah.
No, Grey Dalcenti is a favorite of ours, but it's only because He's a favorite of ours because he has the lamest fucking power that you could possibly have. Like, your power is social awkwardness.
Just looking cool,
You're just
man.
like super scared to talk.
Leaning on walls, flipping a silver dollar in the air.
Only a
waiting for the
writer
right
of
thing.
fantasy would come up with a superpower that is like, you don't talk. Only a fantasy writer would come up with that. You're like, yeah, that's like me. That was my superpower.
Yeah, that's
like
me
I
too.
just
I don't
didn't talk, and I made
just
everybody
really
very
mysterious.
uncomfortable. Made everybody very, very uncomfortable.
Then, when I would say something, it meant something.
Yeah. I like that. Just shelve it to. I'm on another level. They don't know.
Yeah, you don't
They
get
don't
it.
know. That's why I don't
You don't
speak
get
because
it.
I'm just on another level.
Of course, Rothfuss was right when he
and all
when
that's
he said
happening
that.
in his head. They're just standing there, and he's in his head, being like, "You just don't get it." Not even saying it.
So why is he hanging? And he's
So
hanging
it's
out in a
super
group of
awkward.
the most sinister, powerful people in existence.
Like one guy's like, blue flame. Fucking, I'll turn your flame to blue. Another guy controls iron. The other guy's like, fucking can bring fucking chill and ice. Another person can bring decay. And then you got Pale Alinta, she brings the blight. And last there is the Lord of Seven, hated, hopeless, sleepless, sane. Alexel brings the shadow's aim. Like Haliax, the fucking most powerful bad dude that there is in this world. Like, he fucking is able to whip him around in a fucking shadow and just drift off like fucking sand. And then Grey Dalcenti is over just standing there like, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to talk.
So it makes you wonder if he got whipped up into that group by mistake. Like, he didn't really know what was going on, but then when he figured it out, he was like, I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah. So he's just playing it cool.
Yeah.
I don't really belong here. Just be quiet. Be quiet. Look cool. Flick your silver dollar.
They
in the
wiped
air,
out they wiped out his community, but he just like sidled up to him like he was one of them. He's just he doesn't speak because he doesn't want to give up the game that he's not one of them.
I kind of really dig that. They're like wiping all these people out, and they look at this guy, and he's just quiet, and they're like, I like this guy. I like this guy's style.
He's a sidler, man.
He's cold.
A sidler.
This guy's ice cold.
He's always sidling up.
This guy's cool. He's going to be the watcher. He's just going to hang out with us, watch what's going on, and we need somebody to witness this shit. So let's have this guy. He's always dressed in gray. Just gray. I'm picturing gray sweats from fucking neck to foot, you know? Just
Yeah.
the champion,
All
gray
gray.
sweats, like it's just all gray.
Nice.
Nothing. And
I
not
love
pretty
those
baggy. It doesn't look
champion
like he's that fit. It's a good look. Because it's a bad look on everyone that wears it.
They all surrounded him. Were like, "What are you doing here?" He took a hit of his cigarette, flicked it. But then he couldn't think of anything to say, so he just stayed quiet. And they're like, "Damn,
he's a huge nerd." But yeah, he just, because he doesn't talk. Like, as soon as he talks, like, everybody would realize he's a big nerd. He's got like a super high, nasally pitched voice. But he doesn't talk. He just like smokes a cigarette and fucking just goes fucking Clint Eastwood on him.
Can I join your gang?
Shit. Like, hey, what the fuck is your problem? He just fucking hits a cigarette and just stares at him. And they're like, oh shit, don't mess with that motherfucker.
So, brings the Blythe. What does that mean? Because I know
the blight.
The blight. Is it the rust? Metal rusting and shit?
Blight has a specific definition.
Because, well, actually, Blythe
would
like
be death, isn't it?
It's like
it would be more like Grey Dalcenti bringing the Blythe.
Plant disease or something like that. So, like, you know, with like flowers wilting
I thought that was somebody else. I thought you said the person before that person, like, brings the death to plants.
Pale Alinta brings the blight.
Okay, but
she brings like the plants dying.
I thought there was someone before that brings the plants dying, and then I thought the Blythe was separate from the plants dying.
No, Uznea lives in nothing but decay.
Okay, so decay.
So, yeah, that's what
so
it
that would
is.
be the rust
Decay
and
and
whatnot.
blight
Okay, all right.
are very
Gotcha.
similar. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right.
They have very similar powers, but like a plant disease or mildew, rust, that kind of thing, you could think of as pale lenta. Sturkis is in thrall of iron, so he's a master of iron. It seems like, like when they're in the couple chapters when like Kavoth sees like the swords are broken and shit like that, like it things like it seems like Sturkis would probably be the one that would be doing that, but like the iron wheel rusting and shit like that, the wheel of the wagon rusting, the metal on it would either be probably either Uznea or pale lenta. Like it's hard to know what exactly the difference between bringing decay and bringing the blight. It seems very similar.
I like the idea instead of blight brings blithe, which is like boring. So you'd have like what's the character? A story.
I thought blithe
about
was
a
like
bridge.
happiness.
It'd be like someone just like brings down the mood in the room. Like everybody's having fun, and then Killington. What is it? Buzz Killington. Yeah, it'd be like
Buzz
that guy.
Killington,
He
yeah.
walks in. He's like, "Who would like to hear a story about a bridge?" And everybody's just like,
No, Blythe is like carefree, lighthearted.
"Oh, so that's the opposite of what I just said."
Yeah.
Unblithe.
It's not the opposite, but yeah, it's different. You can still be carefree and boring, but like, yeah, she's not accepting, like when they're like slaughtering people, like she's skipping, fucking having a good time, fucking like slicing someone's head off and fucking smiling and laughing.
Have a good day.
She
Jesus
carries
loves you.
2 scythes, and she just like as she's skipping, she's swinging them back and forth, not even acknowledging that she's slicing heads off.
I kind of like this character.
She watches that blood splatter and she goes, "Ooh, pretty."
I kind of like this character. I'm not big into like horror movies or anything, but I kind of like the idea of a character that finds it tremendously fun and is like really, Jesus loves you, and slices a throat.
Go to heaven. See ya. But
Happy
Tim,
trails.
it wasn't actually Blythe. It was Blight.
No, I know. I was still just going with it, and I love that I went with it, and I was completely fucking wrong. I had it completely turned around. But I do that sometimes. Do a little 180 on the definition.
Where would we be without it, Tim? Where would we be without it?
Worked out. And then, as far as getting back into the story, like one of the other parts is after he talks about some of the different signs, Lorien, one of their big discrepancies is like, well, sometimes you see XYZ signs, and then the other you see ABC. And Lorien is like, well, I can explain that. Each single person has one individual sign, and they don't always travel together.
Yeah, it's pretty smart.
Which we know, 100% accurate. Her theory, 100% accurate. He's not buying into it.
Which is funny.
Arlenin doesn't think it's accurate, or he's at least not accepting it fully. But she's 100% right.
Yeah, I dig it because she's like, dude, we've talked about this. I've told you multiple times. This is what it is. And I like that because it is actually right. Yeah, it's pretty cool that we sort of get, again, that's like one of those read through things that we get little win on. I thought it was weird. They're supposed to be cold to the touch. I get that, fires don't burn around them, so you can visualize that, but he even says, how would anyone know that is beyond me? Like, you're going to touch one of these people?
Yeah.
That's going to happen?
And survive. Yeah.
Yeah, like, how's that going to work out?
But I think the cold to the touch could be explained by Cinder bringing the chill. Like, you don't have to necessarily touch them to know fucking they're cold.
Well,
like
plus Grey Dalcenti's super cool, right? So he's playing it cool. He's just leaning back,
100%,
playing it cool. Always listen to Miles Davis,
Ice cold, baby.
Kick back.
Fucking James Dean in it.
Yeah, James.
He's probably got
Benet.
on a really, really awesome gray cloak.
Yeah, dude, he's got a black leather duster over his champion gray sweatpants outfit, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And then
yeah, Grey Dalcenti's 100% wearing a fucking duster.
he's wearing dusters with like Air Force Ones, super white Air Force Ones, and he thinks they're super cool. And maybe they are.
He's basically dressed up like Neo in fucking The Matrix 2.
But with sweatpants.
Yeah. I mean, instead of all black, it's a gray duster with sweatpants underneath.
It's a good look. But yeah, so Fitz was saying shadow hamed, that whole yoked with shadow. Again, I think that goes towards it's interesting. The terminology he uses, man, is really interesting because yoked to shadow or shadow hamed, that whole just the terminology he's kind of like creating. I've never heard shadow hamed.
So he says, somebody throws a log on the fire or something, if I'm right, and he says yoke to shadow, whatever that means. Is that accurate?
Yeah, but he it's clear that he was talking. He was just finishing his statement about who we know as Haliax, because he was like, it's like Ben grunted. I couldn't say either. I heard a story where they were given away by their shadows pointing the wrong direction toward the light, and there was another where one of them was referred to as Shadowhamed, something the Shadowhamed. Damn if I can remember the name. Which obviously he's talking about Haliax.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, like the different things about, we don't have to guess on that. We know he's like, whatever he missed was just more descriptions of Haliax.
Just the description of it being a yoke, I thought was interesting.
Yeah, that's to me, that's one of those. I really appreciate what he does with language in itself.
You think like Haliax was yoked? He's fucking jacked.
Yeah, he's just diesel.
Yeah, well, like
he's
so that
jacked
comes
in
from
shadow.
Yeah,
that comes
from
from
like
fucking
shadow?
just yoked, man. That dude is yoked.
So another
He's
one
like,
of my.
I don't know who he is, but I'm telling you, one of the Chandrian motherfuckers is yoked.
Back to my dairy farm days. Back to my dairy farm days. The yoke is what you'd actually put on a bull or an ox over their shoulders so that it'd pull your plow. We go way back, our family in the dairy farm. So when we used to actually use the yokes, no, I'm kidding. But it could be that, or it could be like if you break an egg and then you break the yolk. And that's what I really thought was like the shadow is more like a yolk that kind of settles like like an egg yolk on the ground. Yeah, something like that.
He's dripping in shadow.
I'm saying I don't know what it could have been. That's why I thought it was interesting.
So if you thought of that initially and not thought of it after the fact when you were thinking more thoroughly, you're a weird person. Is my interpretation.
I'm on my second read through. I'm on my second read through, and I hear
dripping with yolk. Like he got hit with eggs, but they're shadows and they're dripping off of him.
You make sense.
Weird
I can see like Haliax.
I like to comprehend.
Haliax is a very emo fucking dude. Like I could see like someone just smashing eggs in his face and just the yolk just dripping off his face, and he's just like.
When you say it like that, when you say he's super emo, like it's so funny to me because he is like the epitome of darkness and sadness,
dude.
And evil.
If there's ever been an emo character in a book, it's fucking Haliax.
I get it.
He is
but when you say
emo,
it,
like this fucking dude is what are they? What are you like? I guess you just describe him as emo, like fucking like. But there's a goth. Like he's a super emo goth.
It's really funny though, like but when you put it that way, it completely changes the way. Now I look at him like a cartoon instead of like the evil force that he is, which is really funny. Like to then interpret it that way, which is like little sad face, dripping in yolk. He got hit with some eggs.
Egg in my face.
Oh, he got egg on my duster.
I hate egg in my face, man.
Now I got to get my duster dry clean. Oh.
You think he's got purple tips? Like he's got a real straight part of black hair and purple tips?
Yeah,
probably. Probably.
Yeah, for sure. He's making one of the Chandrian do that. That's the only reason Grey Dalcenti's there. He's a salon whatever. He's a hair guy.
Yeah.
I love that. I can't think. He's a barber. I don't know. Whatever. He's a stylist.
Yeah, stylist.
He does great
He
tips.
would never be a
Great
barber.
tips.
He would never be a barber. Barbers want to
Oh,
talk.
yeah, they got to talk. They got to talk like a motherfucker.
They want to
That's
talk your ear off. You don't understand Grey Dalcenti. You don't get him.
Yeah, I don't.
He puts everybody underneath that dryer that the ladies use at the salon.
Maybe
Nobody
that's
can
the
hear him.
Maybe that's the only time he talks. He saves it for the client. They sit down in the chair. They pay for the talk as well as the hairstyle.
Maybe.
He's an artisan. And then outside of that, he just plays it cool in his sweatpants and duster. I love that think now all these characters are wearing either cloaks or dust.
Yeah. Man.
So following just after the Shadow Hamed, we get really the elevation of the Chandrian in that Ben doesn't want to say the names. And that ends up being a huge linchpin to what the fuck happens, why the Chandrian finds them, why they do what they end up doing, and it's because Ben makes such a big deal out of saying their names.
Yeah, and it takes it to a whole nother level because and their reaction to him where they're like, another fucking simpleton, and he's like, hey, don't fucking put me in that class. That's like, I ain't that guy.
No, that's huge too. The fact that he's like, look, I respect you people, and I don't want you looking at me like I'm an idiot. I'm a very careful person. I need you guys to understand what I'm doing is I'm being careful. And it's fucking great. It's great that and again, it's in the book. So he's pointing this out for a very specific and significant reason, because he's making the point that, look, it's not just that he's scared of the words. It makes a lot of sense that then they look at each other like, what the fuck's up with this dude? And then he catches on. He's like, hey, look, I get it. You guys think I'm fucking retarded. And they're like, no, I get it. And they're like, no, I see that you think I'm an idiot, and I'm not. I'm very careful, as you should be.
Yeah, and he brings up two great points to illustrate what he's trying to say.
Well, with the way Rothfuss writes it is, he shows his mastery of writing. Like the way Ben gets them to see his point, like he couldn't have spelled it out to the reader in a better way. Like it's just fucking sticks out in your mind. Like you just constantly think about that line where he's like, listen, if tomorrow we pulled into Byron and someone told you there were shamblemen in the woods, would you believe them? My father shook his head. What if 2 people told you? Another shake. Ben leaned forward on his stump. What if a dozen people told you, with perfect earnestness, that the shamblemen were out there in the fields eating? Of course I wouldn't believe them, my father said, irritated. It's ridiculous. Of course it is, raising a finger. But the real question is, would you go into the woods?
Hey, why does he switch back and forth?
Very still and thoughtful for a moment.
What do you mean?
He says, would you go into the woods? He first starts talking about the woods, and the shamblemen are eating in the field. And then he goes back to the woods. It caught me up. Never mind. Go ahead.
No, it's
I'd go into the woods. They're out in the field.
Let me read that back. Let me read that back to you. You didn't hear that. You still think listen, if tomorrow we pulled up into Byron and someone told you that there were shamblemen in the woods, would you believe them? My father shook his head. What if 2 people told you? Another shake. What if a dozen people told you with perfect earnest that the shamblemen were out in the fields eating, like the fields are in the woods?
Oh.
Yeah, same.
Because that's 2 different things to me.
Well, that's your dairy farming bullshit again. No, it's huge. It looms very large. The back and forth is tremendous because it's one of those things where we're taking down this path with him, and that payoff of would you go into the woods? It's a nice censure. You know what I mean?
Well, like what's great too is like when you're reading it, like you don't know where Ben's going with it
exactly
ahead of time, and so like when he's like, yeah, but the question is, would you go into the woods? Because you're on Arlen inside at first.
Yeah,
you're like, yeah, no, of course not. I'm not going to believe in their dumbass superstitions. And then he's like, yeah, but would you go into the woods? And you're like, I see what you did there, buddy.
Well, and then
like,
also
fucking just brilliant writing.
Also, he does lead into it well because he brings up how do they. So he's laying out what I brought up earlier about these things that other people throughout the world are scared about, superstitious about, and he says, how do they feel about demons off on a tour? And Arladin's like scared. All that religion makes their brains soft. So he's poking fun at people that are scared of these things. He's also poking fun at religion, obviously. But then they continue with, what are they scared of in Ventus, the Fae, which I thought was interesting. I did want to ask, though, at the same time, Arladin says Draugr. What is Draugr?
Yeah, he did throw that out there.
Okay.
What they're
it's just
scared
one of those
of.
things. Yeah, it's one of those things
like Chandrian and everything else. Like we don't know a lot about the boogeyman of the world other than the Chandrian, but we just hear that there's boogeyman. We know the Fae, and we know the Chandrian. But we don't know a lot about the Shambleman or any of those other.
He does a great job of leading into it because what we are on Arladin's side, we're like, yeah, these people are just they're gullible and they're scared of whatever, and then as he goes down that and explains it, and then you're like, yeah, that's a good point. I mean, what are they actually scared of? Bears, bandits, good sensible fears, right? Superstition. There's a reason for these things. Everyone fears the Chandrian. Why is that? And it's interesting. It's one of those things that Arladin is kind of like, yeah, you're right. Everyone does fear the Chandrian. Like, why didn't I see that before? Right? Am I wrong about that? I thought there was
100%. Yeah.
And the other thing is, it seems like because Arladin has been trying to pry the stories out of people, he's like hardened against all these bumpkins who won't tell him the damn stories, and who, what does he say? They pour their beer out and touch iron or something like that.
Ben does it too. He pours one out.
And then Ben does it right after that.
Yeah. He pours his little OE40 out a little bit. That's immediately what I thought he was drinking. Little 8 ball.
One of his homies, man.
Yeah. No, it brought up the question in my mind where it almost felt like it's another thing with the Chandrian. Like, if you try to approach it, it's like one of these mysteries that they have as a defense mechanism is almost like, I don't know. Maybe I'm creating something that doesn't exist, but it almost feels like perhaps Arladin starts to like reach a state of consternation as he's trying to find out more about the Chandrian. You know what I'm saying? Like it creates a jumbling of your mind or something. Like, or I don't know.
Well, regardless, like when he brings that up, not only does he rescue his reputation, but he also illuminates information for Arladin. Like, he makes Arladin realize something he had not thought of, like the fact that no one does fucking badmouth. No one has any funny stories about the Chandrian. No one's like fucking the Chandrian or a fucking joke. Well, everybody fears them.
So that's what I mean. The fact that he's been doing this for as long as he has, and he hasn't made that connection. And I understand because I've had plenty of situations where I'm researching certain things and someone else can point out a connection that I should have seen. It should have been obvious to me.
Well, think about it. I mean, the way it's perfect the way Ben points it out to him. Like he's like, would you worry about Shambleman? He's like, no, of course not. Of course not. No, I wouldn't worry about it. But would you go into the woods? And he's like, it's different. I haven't thought about it that way. Like, I don't believe in their superstitions, but would I go, if everybody's telling me not to go in this place, I'm not going to think that they're right, but I'm still not going to fucking just go fucking trouncing through the woods because there could be something else that these idiots don't understand. And then he's like, nobody fucking badmouths the Chandrian. So the fact that it's the same thing, everybody's got they make fun of the Shambleman over here. They make fun of the fucking Fae over here. They make fun of the Draugr over here. But everybody fucking fears the Chandrian. That's fucking different. And he just had not put that together. Because he's like, he's looking up what he's looking up is he's thinking he's looking up superstitions.
Yeah.
And so it's not even going to cross his mind to think about whether everybody has the same superstition or not. It's not on his radar. It took Ben to fucking point out what was staring him in the face. Like if you're just looking up superstitions, you're like, oh, they believe in dumb shit and they believe in dumb shit and they believe in dumb shit. You're not going to be in a mindset it's like, hey, does everybody believe in the same dumb shit? You're not going to be thinking that way. So the way Ben pointed out was just fucking perfect.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess that answers my question where perhaps I'm thinking too far into it, but his writing makes you do it where it's like, well, maybe there's something else to the Chandrian. Maybe there's another layer of defense mechanism where it jumbles your ability to, they're like cognitive abilities to make the connections. But I mean, regardless if that's the case or not, it's still,
So I think I want to throw this out there that maybe we should take what Ben's saying here is an unheeded warning that Arleden does just what he says he's not going to do, and that is he goes out into the field or into the woods and tries to find them. Everybody's saying don't talk about them, don't write their name, don't say their name. Ben says, hey, here's what you're doing. Now, if it was a real life scenario and you didn't believe it, would you still do it? And he catches Arleden in that.
But again, interestingly enough, he's saying, do me a favor, let's not say their name. But he's also not saying, hey, man, stop saying their names because it's going to get you killed. He doesn't go that far.
No, I agree. I'm just saying it's still a warning, though. I mean, it's still...
No, I get it. I understand.
It's the first
I'm right there with you. Yeah.
It seems like it could be at least the first bit of logic that Arleden heeds, or at least hears.
He acknowledges, yeah.
Yeah, because, apparently everybody in all these different towns have been saying, freaking out when he's asking them to tell him stories, and that's why he's so upset. But now that Ben is telling him, go ahead.
Well, I think big part of it's not necessarily...
I want to... Hold on. One before I lose it. That's also one thing that makes me really question Ben is when Ben obviously knows the power of names. Yeah. Ben knows that everybody is scared to talk about the
suspicious about this. Yeah.
Ben knows the story about Lanre and Lyra. Like, he knows these things. I think we can intuit that he knows all these things. But he doesn't explain to Arleden, stop fucking doing this, man.
He hints.
This is going to fucking bite you in the ass. He does not explain that to him.
Yeah, it's super suspicious, man.
Yes, it just adds another layer to my suspicions of him. I think he knew what the fuck was coming.
So again, that's what's so vexing to me about this particular group of chapters, and where it really is sitting. And at first, I didn't pick it up because he just seems like a nice guy, jovial guy. He gives Kvothe so much, but he also, 2 chapters later, he feels genuinely bad about lying to Kvothe's mom. We wish he didn't have to do it. He had to do it, and he feels genuinely bad about it.
Yeah, he seems like what he seems like is a really good person that is also more interested in the greater good.
So I guess, all right. So but then
which would be very, very, very link him very much to the Amir.
Or I'll throw this out there that maybe he's not allowed to change fates. Maybe this is Kvothe's fate to be in the, to have his family killed and by the chain. Maybe he's just not allowed to actually change fate. Maybe he's not allowed to say.
Yeah, but that still wouldn't explain why he's there. And it would more explain like he's there to help it along.
There's also the interesting element, if that's the case, if that's the case and he's there to help them along, he's being utilized as a tool. We've talked about that before as a possibility with certain individuals. Maybe they're just being used by the Amir. Maybe they're being used, shit, man. Maybe they're being used by the Chandrian. If you think about it, how powerful Haliax is, how powerful these other people are, perhaps maybe they're what's the skin dancing with these motherfuckers and basically using Ben as a tool to move Kvothe in this direction. and sacrificing his parents and the whole troop.
That's a good point, Tim. That because they do talk about the skin dancers that enter people's bodies.
Well,
Maybe
it's the
one of these
hypothesis.
guys.
I'm just.
I don't think it's a skin dancer, and like with the only instance we get of the skin dancer, I know what you're saying. I know, I'm just like dispelling that real quick, like because like the skin dancer that entered that dude's body like could barely fucking speak, and Bast is like, we hadn't seen him in thousands of years, and so like the skin dancer in the story happens way after he meets Ben. But I get what you're saying, that like someone could be using Ben without him knowing.
Yeah, and
he's just an unwitting pawn. But I think it just does not seem likely that Ben is just a coincidence, and that was how Rothfuss moved Kavoth there. Like Ben's obviously needed, but I don't think he's needed exactly the way that Rothfuss writes him. Like the way he writes him seems like there's something more happening that we don't know.
He sows it with a lot of suspicion. I mean, that's exactly what we're talking about. And when I'm talking about possibility of something like a skin dancer or something like that, I'm thinking someone at the level of a Haliax or a Cinder that would be utilizing possibly someone in that way. And again, it's so great of the overarching story itself that, man, it could be Amir or it could be the Chandrian, and they're on opposite sides of this shit. That's fucking amazing, right? Because we don't know what Kavoth does. So it could be someone from either that side or that side that's pulling him this direction. And because of the way the world is now, either Kavoth was pulled in one direction and made the wrong choice for them, or he was pulled in a direction by another force and made, the right or the wrong choice. We don't know, man. It's great for speculation.
Tim, the other thing
I don't think it would.
If the bad guys or the whoever can become skin dancers, demons, then you have to assume that the angels may have the same power, and so it could be one of the good guys.
Hold on, let's dispel that. Like, forget the skin dancers. It's not skin dancers. Like, it's not a power. Skin dancers isn't a power. That's a separate entity that we meet later on that is after the fact, that is after this. It's not skin dancers. Like, I don't think possession is what's happening. I could see that the Chandrian could be using Abinthy. I could see that the Amir are using Abinthy. I could also see that Abinthy is working for the Chandrian, or he's working for the Amir. I could see that he's not possessed. He's clearly, he's too much of an individual fucking person. Like, to bring in possession just doesn't make any sense.
Okay, let me just say this.
Drop that.
I'll drop it, but could he be an angel? Can he not be a man and be on Earth and be an angel? Be one of those 7 guys that in Scarpy's stories?
No, there's no reason. Like why would that be necessary for the story? Like, here's my whole thing. Like, if you want to come up with here's the whole thing for theories. Like, is there any evidence? And then if there's no evidence, the other big thing is, why would that be necessary for the story? And there's no evidence for it, and then there's no reason to make him an angel.
The whole thing is just it's there's a lot of suspicion with Ben's appearance, how he appears, and how he leaves. And he looms so large and is such an important figure to the story progressing in the way that it does. He's essential.
100%. He's a massive figure. You just don't have to go and be like, he's a skin dancer, an angel. He's already massive enough.
Yeah, no.
I know what you're saying.
But it begs those questions, right? It begs the question of, okay, then who's looming larger here? Who's pulling the strings? Or is it just coincidental? Is it just happenstance? What is it?
It could be someone pulling the strings, or it could be him being the puppet master, and he's working for one of the groups, where he's not being led. Mm-hmm. He's just working for one of the groups. Or it also could just be it's all coincidental, in that he's not working for anybody, and he just is what he is on the surface. Could be that too. It's the beauty of the way Rothfuss write this book. You can go down fucking crazy fucking conspiracies. You can go down that he's working for one of a few groups, or you could be that he's just who he is and it's just all coincidence. There's so many different ways, and there's not any way to 100% solidify it. Like I don't think he's skin dancer and like that kind of stuff, like I was saying, but it's not like you can just prove that he's not. Like there's reasons why you can speculate on him so much.
And that's what's so interesting about all of this. This is why it's possible to talk about this as much as we can, is because he leaves things open. We get insinuations of, it really seems like, Ambrose is behind this thing that happened, but we can't know 100%, right? And that happens so many times throughout all this. It happens with Ben, it happens with virtually almost everything. Which is great, because it leaves us thinking more and more, and there's something we're waiting for, and that's the biggest thing that draws the reader in further, is more anticipation. If it's all tied up nicely, and again he just goes to college and no one dies, and he just continues to accomplish things and becomes the Pope or something, super interesting.
That'd be so awesome.
Yeah, so great.
The story would be so much better that way.
He's going to the bathroom. He flosses 3 times a day. He's a good brusher. He really takes pride in that. That's really interesting.
So much better.
Real quick, Dan, just because you dispelled me so fast, I'll say the one bit of evidence that really got me on everything, okay, was when Telu is fighting the devil, I forget, and he's getting ready to die, and the devil says, you're going to die with me. And he's like, yeah, but I'll come back. So this just I'm just throwing that out as a case for reincarnation of angels. And I'll drop it.
No, I understand. I'm not denying that angels exist and that angels could be a character. I am saying that there needs to be evidence, and there needs to be, and not only evidence, there needs to be a reason for it to be a part of the story. And I just don't think you can. There's no evidence.
Yeah,
for one,
it's only clues.
But then also, why would it?
There's no
why?
necessity.
Why?
There's no.
What would be the? Yeah.
So
it's like, I mean, like I said, with these books, like you can come up with so many different theories. Like he leads you down a path that when you're trying to solve all these mysteries, it leads to some crazy fucking theories like I see online, and people are, and then like when you push people on them and you're like, okay, but why? And they're like, well, that's just the way that's just what I think.
Just to back
and it's
up,
like, well, that's not good enough.
Just to
like, it's got to be more than that.
Just to give some meat to what you're saying in terms of being able to back up your theory, in Tarbeen, there's an angel. It seems there's an angel involved that saves him. It seems there's a suggestion that there's an angel involved because of imagery, because of words that are written on the page. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there's things you can point at and you can draw to that would suggest it quite clearly. But because of that could also lead you to say, well, what about here? What about here? What about here? Yet you don't have the same imagery involved. You know what I'm saying? So,
no.
But again, that's kind of the great thing, is that you put it in one place and it's in the back of somebody's mind for somewhere else, right? So I love it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can make the speculations. I'm just saying, like, beyond just saying like, this could be like, anything could be. Rothfuss could do literally anything with the third book. I mean, like, we have, like, I'm telling you, like, again, we've already recorded a bunch of other episodes. Like, we have some amazing theories.
Yeah, we're like 16 in
the third book's.
So
where the third book's going, we've fucking figured it out.
Smashed.
Like,
we
hear
know
some of our theories.
We know.
You're gonna fucking shit your pants.
Yeah. If you like the Mario Brothers and you like Jack in the Box, it's good.
They haven't heard Jack in the Box.
But
they have not heard Jack in the Box. You will shit your pants when you hear the Jack in the Box theory.
Well, or the Mario Brothers. That's good stuff.
Oh, man, there's so much good stuff. There's a Tonto theory.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much good stuff. You're gonna shit your fucking pants.
So
Rothfuss. Here's how good our theories is. Rothfuss doesn't even know our theories, and they're right.
But no, hey, on a more serious note, Dan.
No, I'm serious.
You make a strong case that about the necessity, and I mean there are things that we talk about, and I'm sure everybody else who reads the books knows, or at least has some clue towards that these theories, they're woven into the book deeply. And yes, there are little bits and pieces here, and Rothfuss's style, it really lends to a deep understanding or a deep read of what's going on. Even small phrases, small words, alluding to other things.
He's suggesting for the reader to go ahead and make your interpretations.
Yeah. So I think what I'm getting at is, Dan, you make a great point that there's enough here that he actually lays out evidence, necessity, and all the little clues, and not just the clues, to actually form good theories. Now, maybe when book 3 comes out, and we go back and we do an even deeper read of everything, and here's what he was really talking, because I'm sure it's going to happen. There's all these different things that are clues for the third book. There has to be, because there's all these parts where we're like, we don't really know, but there's definitely clues here laying on the floor.
For sure.
So anyway, what I'm getting at is there's plenty of things we can speculate on. And yes, when we hash out that Mario Brothers, you guys are going to be satisfied. There is so much necessity and
we're building it up too much
evidence. Anyway,
there's no how could you possibly build it up too much?
Right, that's true.
It's impossible.
But it lends to it. His story really does lend to a thinking mind. Somebody who can look at all the different things and try to. It's an adventurous story. It's a mystery.
The beautiful thing about the books, you don't have to do any of that, and it's still freaking awesome, man. Read it through one time, and it's tremendous. It's a tremendously entertaining read. Period, for everything he does with the love story and the music and the sympathy. All that alone is tremendous, and it's a tremendously entertaining read. Yeah, I mean, we're complimenting the shit out of him, and he deserves it. But that alone is enough. The fact that you get multiple rereads, there's just not that many books, and I mentioned this a lot throughout the different episodes, but I have not experienced that many times that there's multiple rereads that pay off as much as this one does, because you make connections that you wouldn't have.
It's going to come up in this episode. Like I was telling you guys before we started recording, like I was listening to a part in chapter 14, and I was like, something just clicked in my mind, and it was a major puzzle piece for me.
Puzzle pieces fitting,
and I've read these books a fucking shitload, so. We're gonna come up with like a perfect example of why these rereads are great in a couple chapters. But then, like as far as this chapter goes, kind of the next step was Kvothe starts to walk away, and then he hears them start to talk about his future.
Mm-hmm. In particular, what I really liked about the way that it gets explained is, the parents don't really see it because, they've lived with him as long as they have. They think, he is clever. They do think he's, above average, maybe we say. But Ben is trying to point it out that, no, he's exceptional. I don't think you really get it. How easily did he pick up the loot? Which I think is a good way to illustrate it, where it's like, yeah, kind of easily, but, and then he's like, well, okay, how old was he? How quickly did he pick it up? How many times did you have to show him, and how many mistakes did he make? And then they kind of start, it's almost like the wheels start turning in their heads, and they start to realize, like, oh, okay, maybe you have a point here. Although I do get the impression Arleden is not one to back down easily. And we don't read about Arleden so much in conversation, but he does a lot with a little. You know what I'm saying? Because he does it with the wife. He does it with Ben in multiple times. And in this circumstance as well, he's like, well, but, he had trouble with the E chord or a lot of trouble with greater and diminished E. And then, his wife always has to be the sound of reason where it's like, dude, he's 8. He's got small hands.
Yeah, his hands were too small. But yeah, you get it too with when he's talking about like the shamblemen in the woods and Arlenon's like, no, of course not. So get to your point. Yeah. And then like he gives him a point like, I
think a really interesting thing that is it's a bit of a motif through the books. Ben, he has marvelous hands. My mother would have called them magician's fingers. And then later he even goes, and then they talk about his hands. And then later he goes into, if I had his hands, it's, dude.
His wit.
It's, yeah, okay, granted the wit, but the hands thing, I think, needs to be pointed out. It's almost like the ears thing, like, which to me, it's kind of a funny thing when someone obsesses about, how beautiful someone's or how nice their hands are. It's just a funny thing to me. Like, it's not something that I would recognize or notice until someone's like, yeah, look at the hands. Yeah. It's like, oh.
There's a lot of focus on hands and ears in this episode, in this book. The hands, he's got jazz hands. Fucking
delicate,
super jazz
delicate
hands,
but strong.
Then, like also like the focus on ears and perfect ears.
By the way, delicate but strong, which is what Arlenon says, which is very close to how Kramer describes George's hands. I think it's like I don't remember. It's something but masculine, Yeah,
that's delicate, masculine.
Again, it's just a weird thing where it's like George had no idea because no one does. Like it's just their hands. They're my hands, so they're beautiful. And then it's like, okay, yeah, I guess someone else noticed how beautiful my hands are. But
it's throughout. Yeah, it's multiple different people that mention his hands.
Even Kelvin.
Like
Kelvin loves
Kelvin
his hands,
talks about his hands. Denna talks about his hands. Like when she feels his hands, I thought they would be calloused. I thought the calluses would be rough. And she's like, but they're not. They're smooth. Like there's multiple mentions of his hands. Same way as Denna with her ears. Like, man, like Kavoth and her are a perfect match. She's got them sexy ass ears. He's got them fucking fine ass hands.
Well, a couple things that you guys and Denna might have missed was that Kavoth always does have those oven mitts on. He walks around with oven mitts all the time. And then Denna, she's always wearing those earmuffs. So maybe that's got something to do with it.
Yeah.
Well, no, we've talked
about
how
they fucking keep him so pristine.
We've talked about his fingerless gloves. He's just protecting. He's protecting the palm, right, and the main knuckle, whatever.
That's another one you can look forward to. Our fingerless glove theories.
Yeah, those are good. Those are good. They tie in with the cloak. Oh, which by the way,
go-kart gloves.
Go-kart gloves. Abinthy wears a cloak. Did you see that?
He wears a cloak.
He wears a cloak. Where was that at?
Where did it say he wears a fucking nerd-ass cloak?
Ben was sitting on a stump, huddled in his frayed brown cloak.
Wow, what a fucking
My parents were opposite him, with a blanket draped around them. But he doesn't need a blanket. Why? He's got that cloak.
He's got a cloak.
He's got
wearing a bed right on his back.
He's got a little dried apple in one of the pockets. Right? He's got a little pouch of salt.
A needle and thread.
Yeah, he's got a needle and thread. He's got a little wax.
He's got a pet mouse.
It's one of the,
I bet he does.
One of the benefits. One of the benefits the audience is going to get is we've already laid out the groundwork for my hatred of cloaks, but they don't get it, and so they get a little prequel to
the cloak.
My fucking hatred of cloaks, and it's coming up. I'm not going to be a big fan of them. Not going to be a big fan as we go along.
He's probably got a thimble in there.
You know who's a big fan? Kavoth. Big fan.
Huge fan.
I keep like I'd have one pocket full of Q-tips and then fingernail clippers in another too. Those are important to me.
I like, I wouldn't do, clippers. Yeah. I thought you said clippings. That's weird and gross. But
Hey,
yeah, the
you
clippers.
could put those
I
in
get it.
another pocket.
Yeah. Maybe some tweezers.
Yeah, if you want to save fingernail clippings, I guess you could put them in a pocket.
Hey, you never know who's trying to.
That is an option.
You never know who's trying to use sympathy
but like
against
you walk around with
some Howard
we
Hughes
walk
shit
around
going
with
on.
clothes. We like everybody's wearing like some pair of clothes that have a pocket in it, and so you could keep fingernail clippings in your pockets without a cloak if you were so fucking moved.
I think again,
Dan, you forget what world we're living in here, where if somebody has your fingernail clippings, they could bind you to,
very true. Very true.
Yeah.
Good counterpoint.
Keep those in your pocket.
So yes, everybody should keep their fingernail clippings close to their side.
You could have 7 years of fingernail clippings in one pocket, I think, right there by your heart, close to your chest.
Nice.
One of the other parts I like too is there's a running theme in the books on how much of the discussions are in poetic verse. And so you get it with Arladin and Lorien, who's Natalia. You get that a lot where they're like, she's like, semantics, it's all a chase, and when the race is done, I think I pity women chased who run. Like, you get and Kvothe, I think that's also part of why he likes Denna, is his parents would do that a lot. And his conversations with Denna, they also conversate in verse a lot. And so Rothfuss did another one where Rothfuss did a really good job of laying some groundwork on Kvothe and Denna's relationship, and he planted the seeds, and that's very similar to his mom and dad.
I'm going to directly contradict something I say at another point, but yeah, I definitely get the feeling that Rothfuss has written poetry at some point, because he definitely he loves clearly loves language. He plays with the sounding of, I mean, he even sort of creates words himself, which is freaking great, man. He does a lot of playing with like idioms and things. It's pretty good. I have a couple examples within these chapters, so I guess we can just sort of keep moving through the line. But
hey, Tim, what's the kind of style that I think Shakespeare used, where it's like the
iambic pentameter?
Is that where the accent, or not the accent, the emphasis, wanes, then comes back, then goes and comes back. It creates its own rhythm. Is that?
Yeah, it's Nerdicus, Losericus.
Okay.
Huh?
Anyway,
Nerdicus, Losericus.
Oh,
that's the.
He uses it though. That's all I'm saying.
He wrote in that style.
Occasionally, especially when he's in the Fae, you'll catch that he has real rhythm to his writing. Would you agree, Tim?
Yes.
Don't listen to Dan. You don't have to worry about.
We have to acknowledge that was Dan's,
I gave you
Dan's low point.
I'm sorry. I was giving you the Latin terms for
that. That was your low point. You've reached your low point in terms of your jokes so far, and this is like the 20th episode, because we've done 16 and we're redoing the 4th or 5th, which one we're on. That was your low point. We can acknowledge it, and then we can move on. But that was bad.
It's only
up. Experience it.
It's all uphill from here, Dan.
I will walk off this show right now.
But yes,
speak bad about me one more time. One more time.
So Ben does get as clear as possible, where it's not just memorization. He understands half the things I've been meaning to show him. He's already figured out for himself. And again, so Rothfuss is so good at, and I've skipped over a few, but he leads in before we get there. We're about to get this experience in 2 chapters, like a chapter and a half from now. But he's talking about it now, where he figures things out before I've even taught it to him. So when he does his little quizzing, you get to see. Well, I guess we talked about this in the last episode. Kvothe, the problem solving that he's capable of. It's wowing Ben, and Ben is that's pretty impressive, given what
Yeah.
we know about Ben up to this point.
Yes, not just memorization. Like he is able to figure things out before he's even taught it. He's able to puzzle things out on his own. Which puzzle piece is fitting. So
Yeah.
And-
he's able to puzzle things out on his own.
And the evidence of that is strewn through the whole time. Kavoth even in this chapter where Abinthy thought that it would take him a few hours to figure out the problem that he had dealt, and Kavoth figures it out in 15 minutes, and it's the reason why he is able to come and eavesdrop on his parents in Abinthy. Over and over again, this happens.
But it's still very difficult for a writer to give us clear presentation of why we buy in that this dude is that exceptional. We get it with him interpreting Chronicler's what's the word there? Matrix or whatever you call it.
Yeah, his shorthand.
Yeah, his short. Yeah.
Oh, cipher.
Yeah, his cipher. There you go. So we get it with that, but that's later on. Here we get it based in Ben is spending time with him. He's teaching him, and they're having this back and forth. So who better to interpret someone's intelligence or capability than a teacher who is spending the time with him? And they're having their back and forth.
And we see like we're introduced to Ben with fucking straight up magical abilities. He's able to call the name of the wind. And then Abinthy's like, hey, this kid's fucking something different. He's something special. So it's not like just some random fucking dude saying it. It's not like somebody in their troops like, hey, this kid's different. It's like someone who is different, someone who is very different, who has powers that almost nobody in this world has. Like, there's not many namers in this world. There's not many arcanists in this world. And he's like, this kid is something special. Well, so when that guy says it, that fucking makes you stand up and take attention.
Yeah.
Well, and he's going as far as saying he's special. And they say, yeah, we know that. Why are you pointing it out? And he's like, I don't think you get it. So he's going further and further. And I think if somebody comes up to you and says something in a very serious manner and doesn't have eyebrows, you listen.
Yeah.
You listen.
Yeah. Yeah, because you think he's like super fucking excited about it. Because it's all you can assume.
Why is he so mad at me?
He's always I
would think that you can't really.
Why is he yelling at us?
Decipher what he's saying. Like, I hear what you're saying, but is that a sarcastic tone or?
I think that's why she's like, explain further, because I don't get why you're pointing this out. And it's because he doesn't have the eyebrows, so she can't interpret.
And he's furrowing his brow hard, but she just can't see it.
Yeah, what does a furrowed brow look like with no brows? That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
just pinching above the nose. But yeah, so then we get some story about Ilian and how big a deal Ilian is, because again, and when I think about that, we get some talk of it later, but it's really here. It's Ilian is the trooper's hero. He's the only true famous Ademaru in all of history. All our oldest, best songs are his songs. And that comes after he would become the next Ilian. So he would equal the best of his kind.
And as far as Ilian, if their oldest and best songs are his, that also dates Ilian quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, and he changed the lute. He changed the instrument they use. So he goes back way, way a ways. So
it could be that Ilian is one of the OG, like the Ruach that Scarpy talks about when he calls Lyra, Lanre, Celatos, Telu, and all them. He calls them Ruach. It could be that Ilian dates back like Felurian. Because also Felurian, when Kavoth is telling her stories about Tamerlane the Great and Warren Velseter, the only one she knew was Ilian. When he mentioned Ilian, that's who she knew.
Hey, what?
And so, like, it could date Ilian that, which we talk about, like, from his mom's side of the family in the last episode. We talked about, like, the Lackless side of his family could date back all the way to Haliax. Well, it could be that his dad's side of the family dates all the way back to Ilion, and Ilion could also be a Ruach. So that could also lend credence to why not only does this guy got, all his magical abilities, but his seeming magical abilities with his music could be because Ilion had magical abilities with his music, that Ilion was a Ruach, a powerful fucking person. So it could be that he's not only a descendant of Iax, he could be a descendant of Ilion as well.
That's interesting.
It's a powerful combo.
And while we're talking about Ilion, I'll also throw out there just a quick comment that was made about Ilion's original lute not having 7 strings but having 8. And I wondered when I read that it just seemed like maybe there's more to that.
I don't have anything on it.
No, I know. It's like it just made me think maybe there's some kind of magic in that extra chord, and who knows? It goes alongside with what Kvothe is able to do with one less string. He's so much further along in his ability to play the lute that he can even do it with one less string. That if he had one more, think what he may be able to do.
Well, it does also, it begs the question because he doesn't waste lines, and why would you say it? So it always begs the question of, so what's up with this 8? Because 7 is perpetual. We see 7 a lot, right?
Yeah, but 8 is infinite.
Oh, look at you.
Look at you.
So I was talking about how he plays with idioms, and I love this idiom so great, and it does a lot because it's the father and the mother joking with each other, but it seems like the original idiom is wild beasts will lay their heads in his lap, meaning Kvothe is so spectacular at what he does that even the wild beasts that he would go and hunt will literally come up, lay their heads in his lap because he's so great. And Arladin's interpretation is the wild women in his lap laying their breast on his head.
Yeah.
It's so great.
That's good.
It's so great. It's such a great, just like image. And then the fact that she corrects him, and it's like, oh wait, makes me like Arladin like, quite a bit.
Did I? Is that what I meant?
Is that what it is? I always thought it was this.
Yeah,
I think funny. You meant this. And he's like, "Oh, is that what I meant? Oh, okay."
But so little does Lorien know that Kvothe is going to be a total tool when it comes to women and not know how to do anything.
Not after he meets Florian.
Yeah, not after he tames fucking the wildest of the wild.
It's true.
Denna's the only one that trips him up after that.
But yeah, so they continue. They go down the road of he can do whatever he wants to do. He could be a merchant. Arladin worries about that. He's like, he's too curious to be a merchant. Don't worry. But he would own the world or half the world.
If he was a merchant, not only just because of his character and his personality and his skill, like he would have transfixed the world and the delivery system on how to deliver goods from point A to point B. Like this guy would have been like the Tinkers would have been put out of business if Kvothe became a merchant.
He'd have been the
fucking
Jeff Bezos.
He would have just had like an unbelievable delivery system of goods and services that would have just made Tinkers obsolete. But yeah, like Kvothe was going to be a badass at whatever he did, and we'll come up with, when we hear about his bar, some of the details about his bar in the next chapter, we get a very good demonstration about how fucking, no matter what this dude did, he was going to be a fucking badass at it.
Yeah. Well, so then he hears the university, and his mind just starts to reel, basically. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the end of it, if I remember right. I mean, it's just kind of...
Yeah.
Yeah. It goes from there, and then, he just kind of leaves thinking about, wow, the university, so that's a possibility for me? Because he talks about it as if when it pops up, it's like, wait, that's something I can do? He thought about it as if it's like going into the Fae or something. Or they make some sort of comparison like that.
Fae, he compares it to the Fae court, and I wanted to ask about that. Is the Fae court like a court in our sense? like a court of law?
No, I think a
Or is
royal
the
court.
Fey court a royal court? The Fey court is a royal court.
That's what I thought.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I interpret it, but who knows?
Oh, you know what? It's probably like Assembly Hall, right?
A basketball court.
Yeah, it's like a field house. Yeah, old school field house. They're just balling out. What if book 3 is Hoosiers?
You know, most of our audience is not from Indiana.
They're not
They
even
have no
Hoosiers.
idea what a fucking assembly hall is.
Oh yeah, I guess when I said that, yeah, that's very inside basketball, inside basketball.
Inside
What's
basketball,
what?
very
I
good.
mean, I don't know. United Center. What's a famous basketball court that everybody would know about?
Just say a famous basketball court.
I guess you could say a famous.
What about
basketball. I like to be
Boston
specific.
Gardens?
I like to be a
What
specific.
about the Gardens?
Yeah,
The Gardens.
It's Boston
the
Garden.
Boston Garden,
You
the
mean
fucking
TD
Staples
Garden or
Center,
whatever?
or fucking the
I'm not a
Forum.
Laker fan. Not a Laker fan. So no, I will not
Not
perpetuate that.
Wrigley Field.
Market
Field,
Square
yeah.
Arena.
Ugh.
Market Square Arena.
That's even less known than Assembly Hall, probably. They'd be like, is he talking about Madison Square Garden? He just doesn't know how to say it? Anyway, you basketball fans. Yeah, so the next, yeah. I guess that leads into the next chapter, unless anybody has anything else for puzzle pieces
That's it.
fitting up in there. Oh, actually, sorry, real quick. He does mention, or we get Noble's daughter again, in case you missed it previously. We do get that, again, the beautiful hands. When they're talking about his beautiful hands, he gets them from his father, graceful and gentle, perfect for seducing young nobles' daughters.
Yeah, Lorien.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah,
last
Natalia.
that is one of the clues for Lorien being Natalia Lackless.
Good call, Tim. Okay, so chapter 13 is another interlude. It's called Flesh with Blood Beneath. So back at the Waystone Inn, we learn first that Kavoth has a wide variety of drinks. We then learn Bast is a fey creature, and when Chronicler realizes this, he calls the name of Iron and attacks Bast. Kavoth stops the altercation and orders the two to not kill each other, stating that he has lost enough friends. The two relax and have a conversation as Kavoth brings out a snack and prepares to continue his story.
Yeah, the first thing that I think's kind of interesting is just the description of Kavoth's bar, and you realize we know Kavoth as like this broke dude for almost 2 full books. Like at the end of the second book is when he starts to have a little bit of cash. But when we get into the scene and he's like, we have everything here at the Waystone, accepting any customers, of course. But like he's got chocolate, and Chronicler's like, I wouldn't have expected to see chocolate anywhere. Kavoth has everything. Like this dude, not only he's got chocolate, he's got fucking all the drinks, he's got fucking food, he's got he's got his bar, he's got the fucking thrice locked chest made of
priceless wood.
Yeah,
he's got
he's
some,
got
he's got a
$10
priceless
million
mount.
chest.
fucking board
He's
for
got
the
a priceless
sword.
mounting board. Yeah.
And then the guys come in with the guys that beat his ass later on in the second book. They come in with the gold royals, and they're like, "Hey, we need change." I had no problem. I got your fucking change right here.
Yeah.
And like this dude has gone from being broke to being fucking flush with cash and with fucking merchandise. Like he is in a totally different spot. And at where we're at now to where we've seen in the first 2 books.
It's a very interesting dichotomy as well because, yes, has this elevated station in life financially. What we have read in the 2 books is he keeps elevating himself in terms of notoriety and accomplishments. However, he also does tend to burn bridges in certain circumstances. Yet, he doesn't cash in on any of those things, right? He's not turning that into cash. He's not, monetizing those gains. Yet somehow he got to this point where he's got plenty. He's flush with capabilities, with financial, gains, what have you. Yet he's freaking depressed as shit. So he ended the problems that kept him driving so much throughout the 2 books, where it's always going back to doesn't have money for shirts, doesn't have money for shoes, doesn't have money for tuition, is constantly trying to work with that, pay money lenders and deal with that. Yet now he's flush with cash and he's in the most depressed state we ever find him in.
Yeah. Yeah, it did not solve his problems. Like, that's a constant theme where he's like, if I just had some fucking money. Yeah, now he's got more money than he can handle. He's got so much money he doesn't even need it. I mean, like, to where, like, when Chronicler, at some point in the 2nd book, he's like, oh shit, I should have asked, do you need ink? Do you need paper? I got the fucking baddest paper ever.
Yeah, he's got
ink I got
from
this great ink.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's just fucking handing it out because, and like when people are, like coming by to sell things, he's like, fucking buy whatever they got. Fucking, without giving them charity, give them my money.
It's basically, yeah. He's giving
I will buy shit I don't even fucking need.
Yeah.
And he's super flush with cash, but it did not solve his fucking problems whatsoever.
Yeah, that always goes back to more money, more problems, man.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. More money, more problems.
That's the theme of the book, right? You can't
disprove it. That's actually what
you can't disprove it.
The third book is titled "Mo Money, Mo Problems."
Yeah. It's a working title.
Well, how disappointed would you be if you saw it and it literally is like, it looked like a bling bling fucking video cover, and it's literally Mo Money, Mo Problems, and Kavos like
one of those
pinky and his mouth showing gold teeth and shit.
Gold teeth with tattoos all over his face.
It ties in with the boy band. That's the other thing that you guys haven't heard yet. We have a great theory about all the boys being in a boy band, a great, accomplished boy band, and then
the boy band theory.
Wait for that. That's a good one.
Ties into Ari, so
you're
gonna be really fucking impressed with where we go. I'm telling you, like, if you're gonna be so fucking amazed with where this podcast goes, like, just constant shit pants.
Why does it always come to shit pants? Why is it always, this doesn't happen to me where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so surprised. Oh, now I'd have to go clean myself.
It's 100% lie.
Pan.
Tim's like shit his pants.
Someone
in
gave
amazement.
Someone gave me a shit pants
35 times.
You just yelled to your wife, "Up, happened again." Oh, that's a good day, right?
I just shit my pants. What happened? Someone said something I didn't expect.
We just stay sitting on pots during this podcast because we shit ourselves so much.
Yeah.
That's good. That's a really good. We have a cross promotion with like an adult diaper company, and we just have a ding every time we poop.
I crap my pants.
Ding.
Love that idea.
It's a joyful crapping of pants. I love it.
Why'd you shit your pants? Like he said something I didn't expect.
Blew my mind. Blew my mind.
Like, okay. And no, that was it. He just said something I didn't expect.
Blew my mind, and my
gates were opened.
Yeah. Blew my mind.
The audio,
and my pants.
The recap audio of that. Oh wow, I hadn't thought about that. All right, we've now matured to a particular level of exceptionalism.
So back at it. The next aspect is Bast comes up, and Chronicler is mesmerized by him, and he shits his pants.
Well, hold on, real quick. The intro of Bast is it's kind of strange, right? Because it's like his immediate reaction. He's like, "Hey, Bast, can you bring up some cider? Would you?" And then he's like, "Shag down and get it yourself, you hack." I'm in the middle of something. Yeah. And he comes up and it's like, the dude's got this shitty attitude. That never happens again. Right? I mean,
well, he was bullshitting.
Well, yeah, I guess they were kind of,
he was lying. He was like trying to trying to make Kavoth not realize that he's been spying on him the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
But Kavoth fucking sniffs it out immediately.
Yeah.
And then he comes up and, Kavoth and him are having their little banter back and forth. But Chronicler, while they're having their banter, Chronicler's like looking at him like, who the fuck is this?
Yeah. It's a very interesting introduction, because what we get immediately is that Kavoth and Bast are very familiar. They're very, they're close. They're sort of joking with each other. There's a teacher-student sort of situation. We find out later that it's more, they seem to be more colleagues than teacher-student, but Bast seems to owe Kavoth like his life. It seems he's fully all in dedicated to him.
It seems like just an extreme admiration for him.
Yeah,
like he
there's
loves this dude.
Yeah, there's a lot there, and it's not 100% tied down, because it's not 100% clear what their relationship is. We don't know what brought the two of them together. I can't wait to hear that story, because it's clearly something really interesting went down. The fact that he is of the Fae is huge, right? And why are they together? What's going on here? Why does he have a nickname for him? Why is Bast's goal basically is to help Kavoth become what he once was? That seems to be his obsession. I mean, that's what he's constantly like looking out for him and trying to, turn him back in. And we get a lot of Kote versus Kavoth in this chapter, if I remember right.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if we get a bunch of their interaction beyond the initial, their little
no. What I mean is
Kote versus Kavoth. I was thinking Bast. Yeah. Well, we don't get a lot of it, but we get one very specific example.
Well, yeah, and it's very, very, very illustrated and enunciated what exactly is seen and how different he looks, and the fact that this guy's like 25, and then it's and it's very well done, because Chronicler three times comes back and says, "How did I not see this before? How did I ever think he was just an innkeeper? How's that even possible?" And then he slowly slides back into being an innkeeper again. And it's that very interesting state that he's in. I get the impression that something has happened here we don't fully understand, because we can't fully come to grips with. We don't have other examples of what is happening here. I get the impression that it's something like a gram, something like that protects him or hides him. Like we do speculate quite a bit as to what put Kavoth in the state that he's in, whether he's changed his name, whether we know he's hiding, but something has clearly brought his his entire being into a different state, and then he comes out of it, then he goes back into it, and we get that very clearly in the chapter here.
Yeah, and it seems that Bast has known him before the transition. Yes. Like he's seen his power. He seems to respect him based off of who he used to be rather than who he is.
I get the impression that he would have seen him at his fully fledged great self, with rings on both hands type Kavoth.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I agree.
Thinking in those lines of his fully fledged self, when Kavoth, the only time we see Kavoth when he's really that wild creature is when he's in the Fae with Felurian, where Bast is from. And so I wonder if with the all the different imagery that they talk about with Bast if that has something to do with it. Coming out of the Fae.
Well, since you bring that up, I see it again when he's with the Adem, and I see it before he's with Felurian when he takes all those guys out. I mean, he's accomplished, not as much that, because he accomplishes something that he doesn't think he's capable of. When he's with Felurian, he controls what he's doing. When he's with the Adem, he controls what he's doing. He starts from a state of, he goes from, this super powerful, highly capable individual, then back down to basically nothing. Like he's damn near a savage when he goes with the Adem because of how different they live their life. So he has to then work his way back up through the way they live to then become someone who is on the same level as them. And then he gets full control again of being able to basically name, and so we see that multiple times, that fully like fledged capability, but it wavers, it comes in waves. I mean, in the university, but then especially at the university, when he's in Elxadal's class, it seems dude's running roughshod over other people in these little competitions they have. And he's got it with Kilvin too. I mean, in artificing, he's excelling and he's constantly getting better. It's kind of what Dan wanted in the book, just gradually getting better, inventing things, getting better. No fires.
Books would have been amazing. You just take out all the tension and all the downside. You just left in all the good things.
So the string doesn't break during the song. It just goes perfectly.
No. He just has a great performance.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just fucking crushes it.
He stands up, he bows.
Yeah. Everybody applauds.
What did he actually gain from that string breaking, Tim?
Everybody empties their wallet and they give him 800 fucking talents right there. And he's just I am rich.
Yeah.
Yeah. He just buys a bed and breakfast, little B&B, and him and Denham move in together.
He buys his own restaurant.
Gets his degree.
He hires Ambrose to sweep his floors.
Jesus, that would be nice. That would actually be...
Yeah.
That would be
See?
Nice.
See? I'm telling you,
I'm buying in. But yeah,
all I had to do is sell you an Ambrose sweeping floors.
The very judicious description of Bast is well done, where we get little pieces of how he's different. Not really fully how he's different, but small little descriptions of how he's different.
Yeah, it's great. At first glance, he looked to be an average, if attractive young man, but there was something different about him. For instance, he wore soft black leather boots. At least if you looked at him, that's what you saw. But if you happened to catch a glimpse of him from the corner of your eye, and if you were staying in the right type of shadow, you might see something else entirely. And if you had the right sort of mind, the sort of mind that actually sees what it looks at, you might notice that his eyes were odd. If your mind had the rare talent of not being fooled by its own expectations, you might notice something else about them, something strange and wonderful. Because of this, Chronicler had been staring at Kavoth's young student, trying to decide what was different about him. By the time the conversation was through, Chronicler's gaze would be considered intense at the very least and rude by most. When Bast finally turned from the bar, Chronicler's eyes widened perceptibly, and the color drained from his already pale face. It's huge information, not about Bast. It just tells you about Bast. But it is a huge amount of information about Chronicler. Because he's talking about, if your mind had the rare talent of not being fooled by expectations. And it talks about it in the fact that, the ability to see Bast for who Bast is a rare talent. It's not something a regular person would be able to see. Chronicler is a rare talent. He's telling you that specifically.
This makes me think of Ari and Elodin and the things that they notice. Specifically, Elodin sees Kavoth with his fey cloak and immediately runs up to him, noticing what he's wearing, and makes a point of it and asks him about it. But nobody else sees it. Nobody else has said a word, about his super,
nerdy cloak.
Yeah. Graphic artist, special effects cloak that just billows in the wind when there's no wind.
What about Ari then?
Ari, in the sense that she sees Elodin's looking for the wind when he's just sitting he's just sitting there looking at something. But she knows he's looking at the wind. Why would you know that? He's just looking.
She sees it for what it is, and so does Elodin, and so does Chronicler.
Well, then
Chronicler looks at Bast and sees him for who he is, not for what you're supposed to see.
It's interesting too, and it took me many read-throughs to really pick up on it. he mentions the soft black boots multiple times. I'm like, why does this guy keep mentioning these boots? Like, they sound super nice. Sounds like I want suddenly these soft black boots. They sound really nice because he keeps emphasizing them. And then, we find out they're frickin' hooves. And he's like a deer or whatever the hell he is, right?
I thought he was just wearing snow boots.
Yeah.
But
So you say soft?
beyond him noticing something that's up with him, which is described as a rare talent, you also get the fact that he pulls out his iron ring and he calls the name of Iron, and he binds Bast with the name of Iron.
So, by the way,
and
first read through for sure, you do not understand.
You don't understand what he's doing.
You see the results,
but it's clear what he's doing on a reread.
You see the results of what he's doing, and you're like, oh, okay. But literally, Iron, he said, his voice sounding with strange resonance, as if it were an order to be obeyed. And then shit goes down, right? But on a second read through, you're like, damn, that'd be confusing for the first read through, because he doesn't say it sounded like iron, but it wasn't iron. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I get the way he's using it. He's using it in a way where he's introducing us slowly to naming in a way that we're yet to understand. You know, so I get it. I get it why he does it the way he does it, but it's one of those things on a read through where it's like, oh, like that's almost an odd way to do it. You know, if this was in book 2 or something. Fitz fucked
Alright,
it all
so
up again.
Fitz fucked us all up. Like his stupid ass computer. He's living in some fucking backwards place with fucking no electricity or whatever, and so he can't fucking handle recording an episode without fucking it all up. And so we lost our train of thought on where we were talking about before, so we'll just kind of have to fucking jump back in.
Well, you're talking about Bast's beautiful eyes.
No.
Yeah. Apologize to the audience for Fitz's awful fucking performance. But yeah, so Chronicler realizes that Bast is something different. Like he realizes that his walk is different, something's different, and he realizes Bast is different. And that's a huge amount of information on who Chronicler is, because the fact that, he talks about, like, for someone, the average person wouldn't know this. You would have to, someone with the rare talent would not be fooled by these expectations. Chronicler is not fooled.
By the way, Chronicler does what he typically does, which is panic and overreact. Because if you don't remember, when he pees in the bushes, there's a rustling, and he panics. He freaks out.
Yeah,
and there's nothing going
on. Very similar to that. And
this was actually a good reading,
he pulls out his little iron ring, and then he calls the name of Iron, which that 100% separates him from the average person in the world, like, by a massive degree.
Even the average arcanist.
Kavoth, yeah. Because Kavoth's like, what do you say? There's like 2 score or 4 score arcanists that would know the name of Iron. So was there like 40 people or so in the world that know the name of Iron?
Yeah, and then he also says, and despite Chronicler's savvy, so to speak, he's an idiot because, he attacks Bast for no reason. Like, really, if you're thinking about it, like, what would possess, even if you thought, okay, he's a fey creature, like, he's not doing anything aggressively. He's just kind of, sauntering around, and all of a sudden Bast is like, Iron!
That's why I say he overreacts.
Doesn't make any sense. Oh, yeah, I agree.
Well, especially if he knows who Kavoth is. And if he knows Kavoth is all-powerful, does he think Kavoth's being fooled by Bast? Apparently he does. And he basically, like, overreacts.
I don't think he thought. I think he saw this dude that's walking through, and then all of a sudden he sees him for who he is, with this fucking man with cloven hooves, who's basically a monster in his eyes, and he just reacted. I don't think there was a lot of thought process that went behind it. I don't think he was like, I don't think Kavoth knows what this guy is.
There's
I
something
think
about...
he just reacted like they talk about how different people fear different groups, and some people fear the Fae as monsters. I think that's how Chronicler is that's a fucking monster.
So
there's a monster in front of me, and he just went into fucking defensive mode and attacked.
Chroniclers from Ventus, I think was what they said people from Ventus fear.
Yeah.
Apparently they fear two things: the Fae and rustling in the bushes.
Yeah.
The two things they're really scared of. Or maybe he was just scared of getting his prick bitten off, which is fair enough, Fair enough.
Getting his prick bitten off?
Well, he was peeing in the woods.
Where does that come in?
He was peeing in the bushes, and there was a rustling, and he freaked out. Anyway, all the speculating we want to do about why he did what he did, it's very effective in showing who Bast is. Sort of, we get an idea of his capabilities, but we also see Kavoth he's just ballasted him to the floor. Just by it, it almost feels like Kavoth doesn't really tense up. He just grabs his arm and doesn't really move. That's how powerful Kavoth is. And they just stop, and they both stop. But it gets really hairy for a minute there.
And when he grabs him, it almost reminds you of Kilvin. It's something you would think Kilvin would do. He just grabs Bast basically by his fucking shirt collar and just pulls him up short with just one-armed him. And you would think just this big muscular dude would do this, and it's not how you think of Kavoth. You don't think of him as this fucking big burly dude, but he's not a fucking puss, man. He's got some fucking power, man.
Well, despite the sheer strength, there's something else to Kavoth, and they say it's another one of those times where his voice had iron in it, where it's not just that Kavoth says stop. He commands it. He you know what I mean?
There's a couple things there where Bast leaped toward Chronicler only to be brought up short, as if Kavoth's hand were a shackle. Bast struggled furiously to free himself, but Kavoth stood behind the bar, arm outstretched, motionless as steel or stone. So that's why I get the impression that he's not even struggling. And then as you say, stop. Kavoth's voice struck the air like a commandment. And in the stillness that followed, his words were sharp and angry. And then, I will have no fighting, and continues. And it basically breaks it all. They all just chill the fuck out.
Yeah, powerful in the physical sense and the mental sense, the ability to kind of control what other people do. Physically, Bast is trying to fucking run at this dude, kill him, and he's just got his arm holding him without even flinching or anything. It's like it was easy. And even Bast talks about he's got the marks on his arms, and where Bast is don't tell him about that, and he'll only feel bad. But he's physically just very strong, and also he commands them with his words too.
It's interesting that he says stop instead of, hey guys, cool it,
Yeah.
Can't we all get along?
Can't we all just get along? That would have been way more powerful.
Except that he does immediately after go, oh, it's almost like there's blood, the same red blood that runs underneath your skin. That's a little later when they shake hands.
I actually kind of like how he's basically like, look, this ain't happening, and you guys should actually be friends. There's no reason for you to be at. And he actually does a pretty good job of being the peacemaker. So, as he can do everything, he can be the diplomat over here.
I would like to throw this out because Kavoth says, he tells them not to kill each other, and he says, "I've lost enough friends." It makes me a little nervous about Sim and Will.
Yeah, I mean, he either lost friends because they died, or because he did something fucked up, and they're no longer friends. Like, right. But yeah, I mean,
I know
why did he lose his friends? Did they
know
die?
He lost his whole
troop.
troop.
Leave him or whatever.
His whole troop was his friends. I mean, I realize that, but also
I don't think that's what he's talking about. I think Will and Sam and all of them is what he's talking about.
Yeah. Do you know what he actually says? What the quote is?
I've lost enough friends.
That's it.
He says,
"I'll not have you guys kill each other. I've lost enough friends." Something like that.
Yeah. Something like that.
Oh yeah. Oh no, fighting among my friends. I've lost enough with that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. One thing that he does say that I thought was pretty interesting when they have their back and forth about, I would have taken him, and kind of that whole thing where, he says, look, it was understandable on both parts why each of you did what you did, but squash this shit basically. But I thought it was interesting where he eventually mentions, sorry, if there's one thing I will not abide, it is the folly of a willful pride. I thought that was interesting because that's his thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's his folly.
I will not abide you being like me. The last aspect I had on this chapter, the part that I find the most interesting is beyond, their interactions, and Chronicler is clearly more powerful than, he lets on, is when he introduces Chronicler to Bast, and he's like, "Chronicler, I would like you to meet Bastus, son of Rimmon, Prince of Twilight, in the Telwyth Mail, the brightest, which is to say the only student I've had the misfortune to teach, glamorer, bartender, and not last, my friend." That, it gives us a sense of who Bast is, but it doesn't really tell us exactly what we want to know. We know what I think it gives us a clue on is we know that Kavoth and Bast meet before shit goes down. Like, I think that's clear because he meets Denna. And we know that Kavoth knows he's from the Twilight Mail, and he's the Prince of Rimmon. So Kavoth has a good understanding of who Bast is. It could be that Bast told him who he is, and that's it. Or it could be that Kavoth goes to the Fae, and he meets Bast in the Fae. And that would also explain kind of why Bast thinks, like, Kavoth has a lot of knowledge of the Fae. He talks about, like, Kavoth knows things he shouldn't know. And that would make sense that he met Bast in the Fae. And he meets him in that situation.
There's a couple interesting things hinted at. I mean, he does say about Bast over the course of 150 years of life, and then not to mention nearly 2 years of my personal tutelage. So they've known each other at least 2 years.
Yeah.
Right? We also get, as you mentioned, a couple things there. And by the way, 2 years, that feels like, given how, so if he's 25 now, it feels like they met in the Fae. They would have had to spend a little bit of time there. But anyway, we also get a mention of Bastus, son of Rimmon, Prince of Twilight, and the Telwyth Mail. That's never mentioned anywhere else, right?
No.
Prince of Twilight, Telwyth Mail. There's no...
It almost gives him a nobility as well, a Fae nobility.
Well, 100%.
Well, they talk about the Fae court.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think that ties in with it. The Telwyth Mail feels like, Yeah, he's of,
Yeah,
certain name.
the Prince
and
of
blood
Twilight.
within. Yeah.
And when you look at they've known each other for 2 years, and Bast knows who Denna is. He saw Denna in a situation where, like, clearly it wasn't like a dire situation, because Kavoth's like, oh yeah, you did see Denna
On the ears. He was examining the ears. That's not a dire situation. They were kicking back.
Well, no, not like they hung out. He was like, I saw her once.
Yeah,
And
but he
was
talks
like,
about
you did
he talks
see
about
her.
her ears. That's what I'm saying. You're not noticing
Oh yeah,
someone's
her
ears.
ear. I
in
thought
a
you
quick-
said years.
they're-
I thought you said years.
No, ears. Those beautiful,
So,
beautiful listening lobes.
So he saw her fucking beautiful, perfect ears at some point where it wasn't like in a dire situation, unless Bass is a super weirdo.
It could be the reason why Kavoth got caught up and fucked up, because Bass was busy looking at Denna's ears. You ever think of
he
that?
needed fucking
He's just drooling at her
Bass
ears.
to fucking have his back, and Bass is fucking jerking it over ears.
But
His ears are so perfect.
but
They're so
Kavoth,
perfect. I can't.
but Kavoth, she had the perfect ears.
Like the
couldn't
Jonah
help
Hill Wolf of
myself.
Wall
I think
Street
if that
situation.
was the case, Kavoth would be more upset over Bass' obsession with her ears.
Hey,
But
bro,
yeah, I
put it in your
remember you're
pants,
focused
man.
on her ears. You really fuck shit up, dude. But
He's
like-
he's like
so
smelling,
I think
smelling
Bass
Q-tips and shit.
sees. So I think Bast sees her before shit goes down.
It seems
but
that way. Yeah.
he clearly, like, shit goes down around 2 years ago. So Bast comes in towards the end, but not completely at the end. So I think that's pretty clear from this.
I get
but-
that impression. Yeah.
But beyond that, then Kavoth, like, once he fucking calms down and shit, and he pours some drink into their bottles and their glasses, and he just kind of fucking slips back into himself, becomes that fucking innkeeper again.
Yeah, the key emphasis there is, and when they turned to look at him, it seemed that someone very different was standing behind the bar. The jovial innkeeper was gone, and in his place stood someone dark and fierce. He's so young, Chronicle marveled. He can't be more than 25. Why didn't I see it before? He could break me in his hands like a kindling stick. How did I ever mistake him for an innkeeper, even for a moment? And then he saw Kavoth's eyes. They had deepened to a green so dark they were nearly black. This is who I came to see, Chronicler thought to himself. This is the man who counseled kings and walked old roads with nothing but his wit to guide him. This is the man whose name has become both praise and curse at the university.
Yeah, it's as clear a distinction between Coat versus Kavoth as you're gonna get.
And he says it, I believe, twice again in a page and a half, where he's like, how did I think this guy was like an old man? Like, how did that ever happen? It's so jarring that he keeps mentioning it, and then he slowly starts to see him turning back into that old man and kind of slumping over. And I don't know. It's again, it goes back to the beginning of the book where it feels to me like almost like an ocean, and like the waves of that natural progression where it's like it comes in, then it goes back out, and it's like this depression, it's like a heavy mantle.
Well,
It's almost like that yoke that Fitz was talking about that just weighs around his neck.
So yoked.
He gets all yoked up, but it's depressing.
It's not just a here's Kavoth, and he's fiery, and he's lit up, and people see it in his face, and he's doing all these heroic things. The alternative being, here's Coat. He is relaxed and calm, serving drinks. He's cutting up some sausage and cheese, and he's serving it to his friends. It's just that like
Dude,
you said, that dichotomy is so incredible.
It's not, dude. It's not even that. He's the innkeeper. He's just a dude. He's in the background. He doesn't stand out whatsoever. That's why every time he talks, they're like, "Wait, who's this? Is this dude saying something? Like what? This guy's got something to say? Like it's like he doesn't exist."
Yeah, the hero of the story is like a background character in fucking the frame.
It almost reminds me like, if you guys ever met somebody's mom who's real sweet, but then you stay over at their house and and you stay over at their house when you're a kid and you see the real side of their mom, like when you guys get into trouble and she goes into bitch mode and she's like, "Rah!" and turns into this pterodactyl. And then as soon as she's done with that, she goes back into this sweet mode. Anyway, that duality of Coat versus Kavoth, where now he's just serving sausage and cheese, and his friends are conversing at the table in his inn. He's going to start telling his story again.
I do not think Tim's mom is like a pterodactyl.
Come on,
I would
bro.
just like to
what the fuck's wrong with you
just
guys?
say.
What is wrong with y'all? I had something of worth to say, and now I've completely lost it.
Like a red-headed pterodactyl.
That's a shame. That's a real shame.
You guys suck. Hey.
that was it for me on that chapter. And Tim, you got anything you want to talk about your pterodactyl mom?
This is all getting cut. I will not allow it. I will not allow it, as Fitz always likes to ask. I will not allow it. Fuck, I actually had a subject that was worth talking about, and then Fitz went with some weird sleepover mom's mad shit. Oh, fuck.
I think the imagery was perfect, and you're lost in it right now is what it is.
Yeah, you completely derailed me.
Yeah.
I'm super disappointed. So, chapter 14.
Okay, chapter 14 then is titled The Name of the Wind. Kavoth and Ben are riding along. Ben is testing Kavoth with sympathy problems. How to boil water. How to bring down a bird. And in an attempt to learn the name of the wind, Kavoth binds the air in his lungs to the air outside and nearly suffocates. Ben calls the name of the wind and saves him, but is extremely disappointed. The troop stops for a waystone, and Arladin recites a poem. Then we learn just how disappointed Ben is in Kavoth, as he becomes apprehensive and actually mitigates his continuing education. Guys?
Yeah, I like the beginning where like Kavoth is just extremely bored with sympathy. He's learning magic, but he's like, oh, it's so fucking boring. And he's just super bored with it, and so and Abinthy sees this, and he's like, all right, let me fucking try to fucking step this up a notch. And so he asks him how he would bring down a bird, and Kavoth is like, all right, do I have a
feather?
Why? Or Abinthy's like, why would you, how would you bring down this bird? And he's like, I wouldn't. And he's like, well, hypothetically, how would you bring down this bird? And he's like, hypothetically, I wouldn't. And he's like, okay.
How would you not bring it down?
How would you not hypothetically bring down this bird? And he's like, I'd have that dude do it. And it's fucking great little interaction between them. And then he's like, okay, but now it's personal. You want to bring down this bird, and you need to do it to yourself. It's a matter of honor.
It's basically
like,
he called your mom a pterodactyl. Now it's time to bring the bird down.
Yeah, he said your mom fucking, you had a sleepover and your mom was acting like a pterodactyl, and fucking you need to bring down this bird. And so then he's like, all right, do I have a feather? He's like, no, you don't have a feather. He's like, well, but let me hear. What would you do with a feather? And he's like, I'd fucking take the oil out of this feather with some chemical and make it so it can't fly. And he's like, that's fucking clever, man. That's clever. And so you get that cleverness of Kavoth.
Well, yeah, I mean,
that little part too.
He literally is like, all right, but he tests him like, okay, so what binding would you use? Second catalytic. And he's like, okay, so that would actually work. And then it goes as far as, I'd never thought of that. with a kind of quiet admiration. I took it as a compliment.
Yeah.
Coming from Ben, again, world-wise, teacher, seems pretty big,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it just shows you how clever he is. It does a good job at just demonstrating his cleverness.
Well, yeah, and we just got this led up to, right, where he's talking about it's not just that he picks things up, he figures things out for himself. So that was just explained, 2 chapters ago, and now we get to see it in live action. It's pretty great.
Yeah, exactly. And then Kavoth is like, I would call the name of the wind, and Abathy is like, like, how would you do that? And Kavoth binds the air in his lungs to the air outside, and he causes a whoosh of air to blow through their little fucking caravan that they're in, and Abinthy has a look of astonishment, like, holy shit, this dude just fucking called the name of the wind. And Kavoth is just sitting there smug, and then all of a sudden,
I love that he did nothing but grin like a maniac.
Yeah.
That's fucking great.
Yeah. He's sitting there all smug, and then all of a sudden he realizes, like, oh shit, I fucked up. Like, I bound all the air outside to the air in my lungs. Now I can't breathe.
Now, he didn't call the name of the wind, actually, right, Dan? He blew his
No,
own...
he did not call the name of the wind.
Blows...
He bound the air
in his lungs.
In his lungs to the air outside, so when he blew, the air outside also blew.
So now the air outside has to fit into his lungs.
Yes, so that's why he can't breathe in. Now, here's my big problem with this chapter is, with everything we know about sympathy and about the Alar, it seems like the sensible thing for Kavoth to do is to just release his Alar, just to release the binding. Like when he's picking up coins and he wants to not lift up 2 coins, he just released the binding and that would drop the coin. And in this situation, like, why wouldn't you just release the binding? And then you should be able to breathe like normal.
So maybe...
Like, why wouldn't you do that?
So, if I can get a better understanding while we're at it, he uses a term or a phrase, right? Is it sigildry?
Binding. It's a
binding word, right? And
it's a word.
And basically what he does is, in his mind, he holds on to that word. That's his alar, holding that binding, and that's what makes it work. The stronger he can hold that word inside his mind, the stronger the binding between the 2 objects is. Am I understanding?
Well, like the alar would be like holding the belief, and the binding would be like the magical word that you need to make it happen. Yeah. And so, like with any other binding, when he wants to let it go, he just lets it go. But in this situation, like when he's like can't breathe, you would just think like, okay, just let it go. Let go of the binding that is binding your air in your lungs to the air outside. Yeah. Just let it go. Let your alar go. Let it go. And then just breathe like normal.
You can undo the binding.
Yes.
And you would think it would be, so to follow that line of logic, you would think it would be his own natural inclination of his body's survival instinct to then undo the binding. But not to be held captive by it. It's threatening his life.
And even if it's a situation where he's in a panic mode and he's just not thinking and he's holding on, like, he stuck his hand in a hole, and all he has to do to get his hand out of the hole is let go, but he's in a panic, so he's just holding on to this thing and he keeps trying to pull his hand out and he won't let go. Like okay,
a monkey with a banana in a jar.
I can understand. That I can understand. That he just won't. Yeah, he won't let go, and he keeps trying to pull his hand out, but he can't because he's not thinking, and he won't let go. But then the other aspect of that is you can break someone else's alar. So why wouldn't Aventhy just fucking break his alar and end the binding?
Is there any other instances in the books where somebody's alar gets deadlocked in a panic?
No. But there is battles between alars where someone has to overpower the other person. Like there is Fenton versus Kavoth when they're trying to light each other's candles. Or
yeah, so Ben
Kavoth versus Devi.
So Ben could have definitely broke that alar. And probably
One
did.
would think he should have been very easily capable. Or, well, he should have been capable.
Because, Kavoth's a 12-year-old kid that's just learning sympathy for the first time.
However, he is Arladin's son. He is, if we want to believe in the power of that lineage and perhaps ascribe to it, and I'm just being devil's advocate here and being Fitz, because Fitz is the devil, apparently, because he's always been the devil's advocate. But if we're just going to give that to him...
the devil's advocate was somebody who was against the devil.
It's Al Pacino. If we literally just give the credit to the lineage and say he's ever powerful and all these things that he tries to do, he can do exceptionally well because of his lineage, then perhaps he can hold an alar that is astounding. However, Devi breaks it, right?
Yes. When he's way more powerful.
Yeah. But is he weakened with Debbie?
Here's the thing.
Wait, hold on. Isn't he weakened with Debbie in some way? Like he hasn't slept in a while? There's something like that.
he's been he's being attacked by Ambrose
at the same
long period of time where he's constantly...
He doesn't have the gram yet.
He has to, every waking moment, he has to have his alar up.
Yeah, okay.
So, it's not a fair fight when he fights with Debbie. But here's the thing. Like, you could make excuses. You could make a way for it to make sense. You could say that, like, when he did this thing, the reason he didn't release his alar because he was in a panic state, and so he was holding on to his alar. And then through his panic state, his alar was so fucking strong that Abinthy wasn't able to overcome it. He wasn't able to overcome what he was doing. So he had to call the name of the wind to be able to breathe breath back into his lungs or whatever he did when he called the name of the wind. But it does not seem like it should have been as big of a problem as it was based on what we know about sympathy. And we can come up with explanations. We can, finesse it and come up with explanations after the fact to try to make it make sense. But the fact that they didn't explain it is a problem.
So
the fact that Abinthy wasn't like holy shit, like what the fuck's up with your alar? Like I tried to break your binding and I couldn't break it. Or like Abinthy's not like, hey, you fucking moron, why didn't you just stop?
Yeah, because
what the fuck were you thinking? Just stop.
And that opportunity is presented later in the chapter because he says,
yes,
here's the problem. They have the discussion. That's where it would have been. Right?
Yeah,
whatever.
There was no explanation of like, you should have stopped. You shouldn't have done, like once you realized the problem, you should have broke your alar. You should have broke that binding on your own. Or like here's a huge problem. Is you didn't see that you could have broke your binding just on your own, and when I tried to overpower it, I wasn't able to do it. I had to like physically call the name of the wind to break, to breathe breath back into your lungs. The fact that there's no explanation seems like a fucking big ass fucking hole.
I'm gonna take
the book.
I'm gonna go ahead.
So this could be kind of this is not extraordinarily strong, but it could be a sense of, again, I'm just trying here, but you tell someone their IQ is above average. You know what I'm saying? And then now they know that, so then they don't take things as seriously or don't think they have to study as hard. You know what I mean? Like, I could see that. I could see like, oh, this guy is so freaking powerful. I can't tell him he's so powerful because he could wield it the wrong way.
Yeah.
And I can attach that to what's happening here only because he nearly kills himself. So I don't want him to be as powerful as some evil person. So instead, let me tell him what he did was wrong and then dip out and not teach him anymore because I taught him too much already.
So I'm gonna.
He doesn't even if you see a kid waving a sword fucking around like a maniac, you're gonna be like, no, you don't do that because of XYZ. He doesn't even give him what you did. He just says like, whoa, that was stupid. And that was it. Like, he doesn't fucking give any explanation for
which
why.
Doesn't fit his character.
Other than he only says like, your thought process was stupid. Not like what you did was insanely fucking powerful. And like, he should have still said like, why didn't you fucking think to just let go, you moron?
Well, okay, there's that, but then he also gives him a half-measured metaphor to try to teach him a lesson anyway, which doesn't get completed. Yeah. So, which, again, if I'm trying to make excuses, it would be maybe telling him thoroughly what the danger was. I don't know. This is hard. It's
all right.
Hard to make
I'm going to take
for it because it doesn't
it's
really
a hole.
connect.
I'm going to take
it feels like a hole.
It's the only hole in the book that I've found, and it is a hole that I can't plug up.
Dan,
and Rothfuss needs to answer for it.
I'm gonna just go ahead and take liberty and answer for Rothfuss here. Okay. It does have to do with Kavoth's extremely powerful alar. And in panic, the grasp that he had on it. I'm going to go ahead and make that assumption. Secondarily, I'm going to make the assumption that to call the name of something when you know it is much easier than to take on the alar and battle someone, especially in the heat of their panic. Abinthy, immediately when Kavoth, binds the air to his lungs, he, grasps his chest, he opens it up. As soon as he looks like he needs help, Abinthy calls the name of the wind. Kavoth gets his lungs back. Okay?
It seems like calling the name of the wind is not an easy thing.
I disagree.
No, it's way harder.
I disagree.
What are you talking about? The books make it very clear it's extraordinarily difficult.
Extraordinarily difficult to learn the name of the wind. Not extraordinarily difficult to call it. Or anything. Look at Bast calling the name of iron. Just right now, like he's not sweating. He didn't have to even flinch. He just calls it. They're not having trouble calling the name. They have trouble learning how to or learning what it is. So it's not hard to break somebody's alar when you can go to the other side and convince the wind that don't listen to him.
Okay.
Anyway,
I understand where you're going with it, and. Okay, so he knows the name of the wind, so it's super easy for him. So it's easier for him to call the name of the wind to break than to break Kavoth's alar, so he didn't even try to break it because it's easier for him to call the name of the wind.
Okay, so you're on board?
Okay. But why didn't he tell Kavoth, why didn't you let go of your alar? Because that's way simpler. Like Kavoth... That seems like if you're teaching someone all these magical powers and this kid almost killed himself, just the same way as you would say, like, if you want to let go of that coin, just let go of your alar. Just let go of the belief. And like, why didn't you just let go of the belief that the air in your lungs was bound to the air outside? Just let it go,
I'll tell you why.
And that would have fucking saved you.
What if
he's actually trying to teach him not to get in that situation. He never wants to teach him, being the teacher of alar, he never wants to teach Kavoth to let go of his alar. Because that's everything.
That's stupid, though. You just saw this kid almost killed himself by doing it.
So he's teaching him.
Should teach him.
He's teaching him not to be stupid. he's not
No,
going
well,
to
no,
teach him
that-
teach him not to be
You
stupid.
don't want to teach him to let go of his
He didn't
alar.
teach him anything.
Well,
Don't
you
ever
want to
let
teach
go
him to
of
have
your alar.
control. Yeah, he needs to teach him to have control of it.
Don't get in stupid
Obviously,
situations.
we saw the danger here. The way I would be able to sell what Fitz is saying is this would lead up to what ends up bringing him down. This would be the big mistake that happens in book 3 that leads us to where we are in book 1. It's that he didn't learn a lesson in this moment.
You know what?
That
Tim,
would be the only way I could
That's
sell
probably the most
this.
profound thing that.
But he learns. Hold on. He learns the lesson about how dangerous the alar is at the university. Like he learns.
Oh, with Fenton.
Like when
right?
someone is like Master Elxadal or whoever teaches him about like the guy that tried to lift up a fucking barrel or whatever, like a crate or something with his alar, and then ripped his arms off or something like that. And then Kavoth was like, "Oh,
I don't
shit!"
remember that.
And they were like, "Oh, you heard about that story?" And Kavoth kind of telling Manette about it, and Manette was like, "Yeah, that was fucked up when that." And he's like, "Oh, the shit, that really happened?" And he's like, "Yeah,
I mean,
fucking dude ripped his arms off."
well, also binder's chills. That teaches you the problem with the alar right there. I mean, if you're reckless with this shit, you can kill yourself.
He learns about how dangerous it is. Like I don't see any justifiable reason to not tell him you should have just let go. It doesn't make any sense. There's I from anything you just said, Fitz, or anything I've ever heard, does not make any sense why Abinthy didn't just say you should have let go.
I agree with you, Dan. I'm just trying to sew up holes to make you feel better.
I'm also just teasing out what we're talking about because that's what the hell would be the reason to talk about it. The whole reason is this could be a hole. Let's tease it out.
Hey, but no, Tim, more importantly is what you said,
I think it's very
though.
problematic. Well, no, I think it's very problematic, though, because there are other instances where he does learn the problem with it. And he does. And
Dan.
So he should have. Well, at that young of an age, again, you would think if it takes so much effort to strengthen your alar to make sure you can hold it, and then your body itself is fighting for its own life, and your body's at risk, one would think your natural inclination would be to drop the alar, stop doing what's killing you or what's about to kill you, if that's what's happening. And
but if your mind is seized up in that, think of it as a seizure.
I get the analogy you guys are using is like you clench your hand, so you're not able to then think out. You're not able to solve the problem because because the problem itself.
Yeah, but that part
real.
makes sense. That part makes sense. But Abinthy not telling him that was what the mistake is a huge fucking problem.
So let's hash that out a little further, because in light of what Tim said about it possibly being, this being the big kind of the name of the wind, the big thing that nearly kills, the turning point, okay, the climax of the turning point. So if it has anything to do with what we don't already know in the future, that Kavoth needs to let go of his alar?
Well, maybe this cast.
He's let go, but he's let go of his alar so many times. Like, what? I mean, how is that?
But again,
he understands how to let go of his alar. That's not a lesson he needs to learn. He understands.
So
that.
now,
let's say Abinthy.
Hold on. Here's a perfect example. When he's battling Devi, and she is like, "Let fucking go, or I'm going to fucking set all your clothes on fire, and I'm going to murder you." He fucking let goes immediately. He knows how to let go in a pressure situation.
Okay. I think that Devi talking is different than not being able to breathe as far as level of intensity. But there's no explanation for why Abinthy wouldn't have explained
my only explanation for that is Abinthy is the villain, or
Abinthy
he's
knows,
the one that's leading him down this path to either he's a mirror or Chandrian, and not telling Kavoth the mistake he's making leads him down this path. Again, man, I'm just doing this just to
I like it.
try to. Well, I'm just trying to close the hole.
Even if Abinthy, let's posit that Abinthy's the villain, but he saved him.
So
he obviously needs him for some future. Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. So he needs him for some future purpose. So he still should have said, like, hey, this is you made a stupid mistake because of this reason. Don't make this again because I need you for this future purpose. I don't want you to make the same mistake again. He did not explain to him how he could have saved himself.
My point is, what if he wants him to make this mistake again?
Don't think of him as a villain, but a catalyst.
Yeah, but then why save him?
Because he needs him to do the next step.
Because he's supposed to do that thing.
Yeah, I know, but you're gambling that he's not going to do it, and like he's only going to do it at the perfect time.
I get it.
Like, don't do it here.
Well,
that's
or
such
he guided him right
sloppy
into
writing.
I understand.
Or he
It's
guided
very
him right
tenuous. No, again, it's very tenuous, but I'm trying to close the hole, and I'm trying to make the excuse for it, and that would seem to be the best excuse given why he didn't say anything to him, is if he is that, like, I like the way Fitz put it, if he's the catalyst, to not tell him would be he wants him in the future. And yeah, dude, it's a long shot because you're going to go through all your experiences with Elxadal, Kilvin, Elodin, all these guys, and you're not going to learn how to break your alarm.
He did, he did learn from other people.
So
like he already learned.
Yeah.
Like, so even if Abinthy, that was his goal, that goal got thwarted because he learned from Elxadal, and then
that would entail make it sloppy writing if that was the case. So, but shit, man, if it's a whole,
we can't say that until we read book 3.
What's going to happen
there's a hole makes me think that we need to look at it deeper.
Rothfuss will show up at a Comic-Con, and I will be at that same Comic-Con, and I will get up on the mic, and when everybody else asks their questions, like, so is book 3, is fucking Puppet gonna be in book 3? I'm gonna be like, hey, what the fuck was up with this hole in book 1 on chapter fucking 14? There's a fucking huge gaping hole in here. Explain this shit, man. Yeah.
And Rothfuss will be like,
why didn't he just stop?
And Rothfuss will be like, Dan, you need to quit looking at Abinthy.
What he'll do? He'll lean on the podium with both arms, and he'll just go, fuck, and then he'll walk off. He'll leave. And then he'll never finish. He'll never release book 3. He'll be like, "This motherfucker cracked it. He saw my hole. I hope nobody would see it." He just gives up.
No, Tim. He'll say, "Dan, I've heard your podcast. Fitz was right. You need to start looking at Abinthy as a catalyst, not as a villain or a hero.
Dude,
more of an angel reincarnated."
You're your angel shit.
Everybody at the Comic-Con will have heard our podcast by then, and so if he goes Fitz is right, you're just gonna hear a chorus of boos.
Everyone will laugh. No, it's not even booing. No, it wouldn't even be booing. Everyone will laugh. I'll just be like, no way, get out of here.
They're all dead.
Seriously.
They're all dead.
And he's like, no, I'm serious. Boo!
That's good stuff.
He's gonna get challenged on it, like either by me or someone who listens to one of the millions and millions of people who listen.
I
to
hope
our
he's
podcast.
got an explanation.
Someone's gonna challenge him on this, and he better have an answer.
It's the name of the Wind chapter. He better have a fucking answer.
Yeah, it is the name of the book. It is a very intense scene. It's pivotal. Yeah, I mean it sets in motion Ben deciding, all right, that's it.
So hey, let me ask you
I'm
this:
dipping out.
maybe Kvoth actually called the name of the wind.
No, he definitely did not.
That's not what happened.
Maybe
he doesn't know the name of the. Well,
We know it. We know what he did. He bound the air, and I mean, we know exactly what he did. He says explicitly what he did.
By the way, the end of this scene is fucking great. So, he's ripping at his shirt. His eyes are hot and red. He's sweating. He thinks he's going to die. He's sure he's going to die. And Ben is trying to help him, basically he's on top of him. He's, trying to help him out. Then he looked at me. All I remember were his eyes. They seemed far away and filled with a terrible power, dispassionate and cold. He looked at me. His mouth moved. He called the wind. A leaf in lightning. I shook, and the thunderclap was black. This again is one of those things where I'm like I think he wrote poetry, because the imagery that he uses here, and the sparse wording. A leaf in lightning. Like what is it?
What
so
the fuck does that mean?
Yeah, you kind of so if you've ever been in a storm that's about to happen, it's like everything stops. All the pressure.
Yeah. It's like a strobe light or something.
Well, it's like there's no. It's not like a loss of gravity, but it's strange. There's like everything sort of stops, and he stops. Everything around him stops, shakes. And the thunderclap was black. It's like, it's weird because it's all imagery, but then it's not, and it's weird. The thunderclap is a sound. A thunderclap is a sound. It's not an image, but the thunderclap was black. So this sound was black. A sound that's black. What that saps away whatever was there. So it's too little.
But he's into poetry, because when he writes Ambrose, and Ambrose is reciting terrible poetry, the only way you're going to be able to write poetry that bad is to be able to write poetry
the way that I read that was like it's like the flashes of panic was that leaf. He's the leaf. The flashes of panic was like a strobe light of, oh my God, I can't breathe. And then the thunderclap, the thunder that rolled behind it was him passing out, is the way I read it.
So I see that, but everything you said in the beginning of that happens before, as far as I'm concerned. This is when everything stops.
Right before he passes out.
He passes out. Yeah. But I mean, it's so artfully done. It's He's very, very judicious with his words, and very artful with the words he's choosing. And I love when he ends these sorts of scenes with boom, 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 a leaf in lightning I shook. And it's very short and sparse, and everything's already charged. So every little punch of a sentence that's 4 words, 3 words, 4 words, 3 words. It's very, it's great.
It's great.
I liked it.
It's very well done.
Well, beyond the massive hole that he left in the book, then we get the troop stops because they run across a Greystone, and Abinthy asks him about it, and this is the first time we come across Greystones or Waystones, whatever you want to call them. It's the first time we come across them in the books, and Kvote's like, every once in a while we run across one by the road. I gestured again to the Greystone peering over the tops of smaller trees by the roadsides. Like most Greystones, it was crudely hewn rectangle about a dozen feet tall. The wagons gathering around it seem insubstantial compared to the stone's solid presence. I've heard them called standing stones, but I've seen a lot of them that weren't standing, just laying on their sides. We always stop for the day when we find one, unless we're in a terrible hurry. I stopped, realizing I was babbling. I've known them by a different name, Waystones. And Waystones and Greystones are obviously monumental in the stories. This is how he gets into the Fae when he meets Felurian, and there's so many moments in his life where he comes across Greystones.
Yeah, huge moments with Denna. I mean, some of the most pivotal moments of his entire life. He's at a Greystone at the beginning, or he's at a Greystone during the moment, or at the end. They're markers for his life experience, and they're definitely they're channels to another world. I mean, we get that. multiple. Throughout.
He seems drawn to them.
Yeah,
because
as well.
like they're obviously pivotal as far as being able to transition to the Fae or to another plane of existence, but he seems to be drawn to
Well,
him because there's so many moments in his life where he's around Greystones, and whenever the Chandrian around, they seem to be near Greystones, so it seems to be a significant marker in the world.
I also like that his bloodline, his family respects and has a respect for the mystique around Greystones, and they stop at them and they don't fully understand why. They give reasons for it, but they clearly don't fully, it seems like at least they don't fully understand why. It almost seems like it's just something that's born in. At least I get that impression.
No, yeah. It dates them, where it seems like this is a tradition that's been passed on, and they don't remember why the tradition started.
How else does
I think it dates the Rue back to maybe the Ruach or the Fae, or it dates them where it seems like they used to know that these things were portals to the Fae, and now they don't. They don't grasp it anymore, but the tradition seems to date them. It seems like probably goes pretty far back.
Yeah, it's really...
Arladin asks him, Arladin says two describing words, tradition, and what's the other one?
I think good luck.
Yeah,
they start to talk about
like
them.
Tradition, my boy, and then something else.
Well, but then they start to talk about them. Well, tradition and superstition. They're one and the same.
Yeah, that was it.
We stop for good luck, and because everyone enjoys an unexpected holiday. I used to know a bit of a poem. But then what's interesting is they start to talk about draw stones and loading stones. So they draw a comparison between gray stones and loading stones, and they could be possibly drawn into them. I actually like also how Kavoth explains them to Ben before actually asking his father outright, which we just always do. It's a break from the road. I think they're supposed to be good luck. Like it's those sorts of things that insinuate that there's this, there's a tradition to it, there's a superstition to it. Those things exist for a reason, but especially in this world. In our world, we still kind of laugh at superstition. It's still kind of a weird thing. I only have superstitions for sports. It's the only thing I'm superstitious about. But it's interesting in this world. Clearly, there's more matter to it because there's magic in that world.
It's interesting. This is the first time that it comes up. We get a sense that Kavoth has been told for a long time, stop at the waystones. Stop at the waystone. Stop at the waystone. Think whatever it is, whatever it may be there for him to grasp. His family does know about it, like you said, Dan, but so many times from here on out, is he stopped at the waystones at very important times of his life.
Yeah, he seems to be drawn to him.
Well, and he owns the Waystone Inn.
Bingo.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think they're obviously pivotal to the story, and I think a huge clue, which I actually, one of the benefits of redoing this episode is, like, as I was listening to it today, like, I came across something that was like it clicked in my mind, and I think it's probably obvious to a lot of people who've read the books. I'm almost certain many people have picked this out. It's just for whatever reason it never clicked in my mind, and it wasn't something I researched.
All right, here we go.
But this time listening to it, it fucking clicked in my mind. So you had when he recited the poem about the Greystones, he goes, like a drawstone, even in our sleep, standing stone by old road is the way to lead you ever deeper into Fae. Laystone as you lay, in hill or dell, Greystone leads to something L. I think it is almost 100. Do you guys have any guesses?
In hill or dell, Greystone leads you into the deepest depths of hell. Tim?
Baron Bellamy.
Yeah.
What is it?
What I think it is Laystone as you lay in hill or dell, Greystone leads to Feyreanial.
Oh, yeah, Feyreanial. Now, wait a minute.
It is almost 100% Feyreanial.
Feyreanial is the place where that one guy from the story met the...
Correct. Skiop is in Feyreanial, and that's where we hear about the Circle of Greystones. And it's also, like we talked about in the last episode, Feyreanial is the place of, a road that, it's a place that you don't travel to.
I'm going to say...
It's a place that, a road you don't travel to or something like that.
I'm going to say wrong.
That's got to...
Completely incorrect. Laystone as you lay in hill or dell, Greystone leads to mere Terrenial. Boom.
Yeah, that would also fit. It's just it wouldn't align as well.
Well done, guys.
Feyreanial. Now here's what it would tie in is Feyreanial is a place is a road you don't travel to. So if you have to go to a Greystone to get to Feyreanial, then that is not a road that you travel down. You have to go through a portal to get to Feyreanial. Or Feyreanial. But also, I think the Circle of Greystones is where the Doors of Stones are. And so I think this is the reason Feyreanial, I think, is important, is that's where the Circle of Greystones are. So I think this is giving us our clue on how you get to Feyreanial. You have to go through a Greystone. You have to go through a portal to get to this in-between land.
Or at least you have to go through the Fey to get there.
That's not quite the Fey. That's not their land. It's this in-between land that you have to get to. That maybe it's like the in-between space between the Fey and their world.
Is this where Kavoth chased Florian?
Florian, yeah. Well, he took off running.
Because I think that was in their world. I think there's a portal that leads you to a specific portal that leads you to Feyreanial.
Okay, so
that is like an in-between place that's not quite the Fey, that is not quite their world.
So is it the road he's walking on as he then sees Florian?
No. I don't think so. I don't see any connection between those because he just goes past that Greystone and he's in the Fey. And then when he leaves, he goes from the Fey back to his world. It doesn't seem like there's this big open space with a circle of Greystones. It seems different. It seems like these Greystones lead you through portals that, can lead you into the Fey, or maybe can lead you into a different dimension that is not quite the Fey, that is not quite your world. It's kind of outside of them.
Well, then where's Florian? I mean, I'm saying it because this is when we go into
Florian's
the Fey.
in the Fey.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. That's why it seems reasonable.
I'm saying Feyreanial. I'm saying Feyreanial might not be in the Fey. It might be outside of both of them.
It's not a. It's not like it's.
I mean, it could
new moon or something.
It could be in the Fey, but I don't think that's correct because then you could have accessed Feyreanial from going and seeing Florian, and then he could have just wandered around the Fey and found Feyreanial. I think there's a specific access point to get to Feyreanial that you cannot get to.
Well,
from other
portals. I mean, we talked about that in the last episode. I think there's a time component, there's a location, there's obviously a lot to it, and this poem speaks to that as well, which is nice. So it's another element that brings in, that roadmap, so to speak, which is hard to piece together because, obviously it's not clearly laid out for people. But yeah, I mean, I draw on that because that's my experience of someone going into the Fey,
Yeah, and I'm just saying, I don't think Feyreanial is in the Fey. I think it's outside the Fey. I think it's like a in between. It's a road in between. It's not a road for traveling. I think there's something distinct about this place. And if you're gonna hide the most dangerous fucking person that's ever existed in this world, Haliax, you're not gonna just want to hide him in the Fey with a bunch of fucking nut jobs like Felurian. You're gonna want to have a specific place that they can't just easily access.
Yeah, you don't want someone like Dan just walking in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some random
you want like a specific place. And now what's interesting is what it connects it to me is like if he's saying, the Waystones lead to Feyreanial, I'll go into a theory in episode 8 on who I think Scarpy might be bigger picture. I'm not going to go into now because it'll just step on that episode. I go into some detail on who exactly I think Scarpy is. But you guys know what I'm talking about. And I think Scarpy is going to be the person who gives him the information he needs to get to Feyreanial. Because of what like I'm going to talk about in episode 8. And for the audience, when we get to episode 8, just remember this conversation because it will all circle it back around on why I think Scarpy is connected to Feyreanial. But I do think he's connected to Feyreanial, and I think that they are going to meet again. I think Kvothe, when he talks to Chronicler about Scarpy, it seems like they are very familiar with each other, so I think they are going to meet again in book 3, and I think what they're going to meet on is either Scarpy's going to tell more stories that gives Kvothe the information he needs to get into Feyreanial, or he's going to lead him to Feyreanial. It's going to be some aspect of Scarpy that Kvothe gets from him to get into Feyreanial, to learn where the Waystone is, to get into Feyreanial. I think it's almost baked into the cake that Scarpy is going to be the one to tell him how to get there.
Like a file? Like a nail file? Baked into the cake?
Yeah.
Saw through the bars, Tim.
Yeah, he gives him a cake with the nail file, and that's how he gets in.
Yeah, it's like...
I love this. I love it.
Black and white silent movie Jailbreak is how he gets into the Fey.
That's how he gets into Feyreanial.
They literally play like that old fucking timey 19...
He's got to take a nail file to a Greystone and saw it all the way down.
That'd take a long time.
Good stuff, man. I really, you put it together for me, man.
Yeah, and I think like for the audience, I'm not gonna tell you why I think Scarpy's connected to Feyreanial, but I lay it out in episode 8, and I think it is. I think it. Here's what's great too is the fact that Kvothe has his dad has this poem, which I think the party's forgetting is Feyreanial, and I think Scarpy is related to he plays a part in Feyreanial, and I think he's going to tell Kvothe how to get there. When I lay out my theory for who I think Scarpy is, I build an elaborate fucking theory. I just lay all the little bricks down, and just piece by piece, I just build this fucking amazing sandcastle of who I think Scarpy is. And then Tim comes over after I build it up, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's an interesting theory." He's like, "What about this?" And then he just starts peeing on my sandcastle. And then Fitz sees Tim peeing on my sandcastle, and he's like, "Oh, hey, how about this?" And then he just kicks it over and just stomps on it. And that's pretty much episode 8 as far as like I build this just great sandcastle, and then they just piss all over it and stomp on it, and you just get to feel my frustration as they've just completely dismissed my fucking awesome build out.
Here's what actually happened. I was standing there looking at the sandcastle, and then the waves that God created came in and just knocked it the fuck over. I had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
It's literally just it was so feeble and so poorly constructed that the waves just took it over. And then Fitz pointed and laughed, and he started
probably
kicking all over the top of it.
better metaphor
And
is
then
like
I danced on it for
Tim
fun.
was
Yeah,
Tim was
exactly.
like Tim was like there was this great castle, there was a great moat, and then Tim was like, like that, yeah, that's an amazing castle. I think that's really nice. I like it. What if I dug a moat that connected
Fucking
your
asshole.
castle to the ocean, and then Fitz is the ocean, and then as soon as Tim dug the moat, the ocean just rushed in and fucking smashed the castle. That's basically what happens in episode 8.
The more apt analogy is I just basically sort of started to prod it a little bit and just test the walls a little bit.
Yeah.
And then Fitz decided to fucking jump right into it. He's like, I see what you're doing. Let me jump right in. I was like, well, I wasn't really going to do that.
I like what you're doing. Let me see what happens when I smash it to smithereens.
I like to think that I can. I like to think that I at least continued my work today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so as we go on, I like that Kvoth's mother comes in, talks about drawing a comparison between gray stones to draw stones to loading stones. And then she then slanderizes the Adumaru slightly, but basically says, you're just being lazy. The only tradition that keeps troops by the gray stones is laziness. The poem should run like this. Whatever the season that I'm on the road, I look for a reason, loading or laying stone, to lay down my load. My father had a dark glimmer in his eye as he moved behind her. Old? He spoke in a low voice as he began to rub her shoulders again. Woman, I have a mind to prove you wrong. She smiled a wry smile. Sir, I have a mind to let you. And then he blew his load all over her face. So
Yeah.
I have the feeling that she is that bukkake girl. So that's what
Yeah.
I got. That was the impression left to me. And
It takes
in
one
that
to know
segment.
one, Tim.
Oh,
It takes one to
Jesus.
know one.
Bukkake Tim, the
Calling out
Bukkake
Lorian.
Buddhist.
That all just that didn't go the way I thought it would.
No, it blew up in your face like a bukkake.
Yeah, we got it. That was
It bukkake'd in your face. Oh man, we keep losing people with this.
Yeah, that definitely.
Everybody
Just
keeps
bleep it.
hearing it. It's like, all right, guys, enough with
Yeah,
the fucking
Yeah,
bukkake.
the loads.
We've
the
had
loads are
enough
too
of
much.
it.
But hey, man, I didn't write this book. He wrote it in there. There's sexual innuendos and there's dropping a load, and I'm just making the
It
connection.
does. It is. There is
Yeah.
that, Tim. It was it was at least nice to bring it up. That hey, everybody sees what you're doing here. You're not fooling anyone, Rothfuss.
So
These innuendos.
it does proceed to Ben then wants to quiz Kavoth about Lanre. And this again, I mean, these are pretty suspicious. You know, it's creating a lot of suspicion about Ben in terms of what he's doing here, because he starts to go into the story. This gives us reason to think, well, he clearly knows a lot more about Lanre than he actually gave Arladin. What's that about? And then he's going to use Lanre's story as a metaphor to teach Kavoth a lesson, then doesn't do it.
Well,
Yeah.
He uses
kinda
another
thought that-
metaphor, but it's kind of weak. But yeah,
the fact that he asked him about
Well, I
Lanre
thought
at
I
this
thought
point,
the metaphor was pretty good. Like he was like, what's the danger of a kid? And he's like, not much. What if you give him a sword? And he's like, not much. What about a 20-year-old kid? What if you give him a sword? And he's like, okay, I get it. Yeah, a stupid, someone with power is dangerous, but someone with a stupid person with power is very dangerous. He's like, I didn't say fucking stupid. It's like, you're clever, but you're careless, which
thoughtless.
is a very good
Thoughtless.
description of
Yes.
Kavoth. Yeah.
Well, and then also what just happened. But what if I brought it up, and then let me take it the complete other direction. Drawing a comparison between Kavoth and Lanre, like suggesting he's going to be the ultimate, sower of evil in the world.
have you ever seen Kavoth not be thoughtless? Like, have you ever... We're in Kavoth's head most of the time. Have you known him to give much thought to things when he's in the heat of battle?
No, but usually when he is in the heat of battle, he doesn't put thought to it, but he usually every time we've seen it, he made the right decision.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. He's at his best when he's not thinking too much. He's at his, like with Denna, he's thinking too much, right? But when he's not thinking too much is when he's playing his music. When he's not thinking too much is when he's in the heat of battle and he's using his sympathy. When he's beating the Dracus.
So it could be that Abenthy's lesson here fucking took hold because we see him, after that, when he's not thinking, he's making the right decision.
I'll just say he solves problems well and does exactly what he wants to do in that moment well when he's in those situations. So in that aspect, he wins and does the right thing, but he doesn't always do the right thing.
He does, but when he doesn't do the right thing, it's usually because he's overthinking, not because he was thoughtless. Like he's a very careless, brash, takes crazy risk, and he takes chances he doesn't need to take. But it's usually problem is he's overthinking things. It doesn't seem to be a problem that. It seems like he learned his lesson from Abenthy here.
The reason why,
because when he just fucking goes on instinct, he makes every time we've seen him, he made the right decision.
The reason why Kavoth's high points are always followed by low points is because the thing that he does bites him in the ass.
Well, I take that back because there's other times like when he's reacting to Ambrose. And he's just going off of instinct. He's not making the right decision. Yeah,
I was going to say those would be moments where always being half measured would be a wiser decision for him. However, we've also cast him as the
even in those
hero.
situations, though, he's making the right decision for me.
No, I was going to say
I love
if he's
it.
Going to be, if
I
he's
enjoy
going to be
it,
the ultimate,
and I'm glad, even if it bites him.
But it always puts Kavoth in a worse state or worse space.
Yeah,
he's in the worst space of his life right now. I don't know what he did, but it's a pattern.
Yes, it's definitely a pattern. Yeah, but I mean, but with even Ambrose, I was thinking the same thing. He's a hero amongst his peers at the university for just being thoughtless and how he approaches Ambrose. I mean, it's extraordinarily admirable. It's kind of stupid, and it's very, it's reckless as shit because of how dangerous. But then also he can justify. I was on the streets of Tarbean with my life constantly, in the balance. What the hell can he do to me? Not really knowing there's a lot he can do to you.
Yeah. I mean, Ben describes him very well in that little moment, and it's a tough lesson that he just keeps relearning. Like, cause a lot of times when he just reacts, all the time when he just reacts, he usually does the heroic thing, the thing we like. It's just a lot of times it bites him in the ass. It's not the thing a cautious man would do.
Well, and a cautious man's not a hero. So,
and he doesn't, and he's put in these situations where.
And Abenthy's not a hero. Abenthy is not. From what we know about Abenthy, he's not a hero. He's a cautious man. Clearly, he's fucking broke when we meet him. Fucking just traveling the land with a couple donkeys. This is not a fucking superhero. And there's no stories about Abenthy that we're hearing.
No, it's true.
I hated that Abenthy stopped Kvoth's education. Like he got shrinkage or something and totally pulled back the reins on Kvoth when he saw his real power.
It's understandable. I mean, I felt similarly, but I was also all in already with the book. So it's like, all right, well, where's this going? Because shit, man, this is where it was going. Why is this guy dipping out? I was shocked. I remember just
when Kvoth needed it most.
How? Well, you don't know that then, but you find that out, very soon after. Then you're like, whoa. Then you step back and it's like, well, what the hell was that?
Well, it makes sense that he would like pull back after the kid, you know, because of the giant hole that Rothfuss wrote into the book. But you know, so like just taking the hole, you know, and ignoring the gaping hole in the story, like it makes sense that he would pull back in that situation. But then he just leaves, and that's what's super suspicious. Like, hold on, you just, like, you know what you taught him is dangerous. You just expressed it explicitly that it's super dangerous, and then you just fucking dip out on the kid? Like, that seems super reckless.
Yeah. Yeah, especially right after what happens. Yeah, that's hard. That's
like,
hard to
even
explain.
if you don't want to teach him more, you would think you would want to be around to protect him from himself. You just saw what he did.
Yeah, he's got to be leading them. He's got to know that the Chandrian are coming, right, guys? He dips out before the Chandrian come.
Right before.
Seems like he knows something. There's just so many coincidences. I would be surprised if Abinthy was not more knowledgeable about what was going on.
So,
but
you want to move on? This next chapter is all about that.
That was it. That's it for this episode.
Oh, you guys don't want to do the next one?
No, we're not going to do the next one on this
prepare for
episode.
the next one.
Well,
What are we trying to go for, like a fucking 6-hour episode?
marathon.
No, we go through next episode. We go through Abinthy leaving, and then the Chandrian roll in, and not sure if we get much further than that. Like I know in episode 7 we start with him in the woods, so I think on episode 6 we just covered maybe like 15 and 16. And then once we get out of these early episodes, then we start fucking eating up chunks of episodes. Like we start doing like 5, 6 chapters together.
Cavolt's life gets so high paced, and it's kind of one thing after another, more moving. The reason why we get so in depth in these, man, it's so chock full of that. Innuendo or in between where there are things to talk about. We're getting ready to take action.
Yeah, it's
for sure. Like there's a ton of theory stuff to cover in basically like the first 8 episodes. There's a ton of theory stuff together, and then you just start getting into the story, and then it's just more. We start talking more about the story, and then it's more sparse as far as like having to dive deep into shit.
Yeah, these are rich
still
on
those
theory and world building, and the legend, the overarching sort of themes and legends of the world. But the thing that's
like when people go through our first 8 episodes, they're going to have a much better picture. If you haven't like already dove into all that stuff, you're gonna have a much better picture of how much shit he layered into these books very subtly.
The big surprise that I had that's coming in these next chapters is, everything we just learned about the Chandrian and how scary they are. When they appear, I feel like they're very similar to that, the musical group, the Village People. Really remind me of the Village People.
I can see that. Except instead of singing, they slaughter people.
Grey Dalcenti's like
splitting hairs.
Grey Dalcenti's clearly the Indian, except for he's like the Indian in the movie with when he sees like the trash on the ground and he starts crying.
It's a movie?
Like he's that silent.
Haliax is the cop
with the tear running down his face.
Haliax is the cop. He gets what's his name by the throat, Cinder by the throat. Like cops do. Grab people.
Cinder's like the litterer. So Cinder's littering. Haliax the cop. And the Indian is Grey Dalcenti, silent, like Dan said, yet emotional and representing our viewpoint.
Yeah,
he's crying
huge
for the world.
Dong. He's got a huge dong.
Why? Why is that a thing?
What else? What other power does he have? He's got no power.
I think it all comes from the dong.
So he's got sweatpants.
He's got a huge.
So definitely no
dong,
underwear.
Man.
He's not wearing underwear under the sweatpants. The
No.
dong's flopping around.
No, not if you got a huge
What do you
dong,
want,
man.
to
You just fucking
coil
let
it
that
up in
shit
there?
flop around, man.
Dong. What a weird.
You're not talking. You're not gonna fucking pick up girls by talking. You got a fucking little dingle dangle, man. Fucking flop that shit around.
He's like cinched him in the back. So he's like pleated the back just to tighten the front.
Yeah. Just wrapping that shit around his leg.
It's such a weird,
It's no,
it's a strange image, man. So
it's no wonder he doesn't say anything, man.
The great and almighty, powerful Grey Dalcenti, dinging and donging it around.
dinging and donging.
Sub-
So this is the double dog dam.
Subversive Grey Dalcenti.
This is where it came
Yeah.
from.
Yeah, double donging it.
Man, a lot of sexual
He's
innuendo.
the
in
original
this.
double dong Diaz.
So when did we
No,
take
deity.
it into
The double dong deity.
Oh, that's right.
Uh,
When did we take it down such a sexual path? I don't know how this happened.
I'm sorry. I just was trying to be funny. You know how I get sometimes. Trying too hard.
Forcing it. Is that what you do?
Well, I mean, you guys filled out the questionnaires. I just
This
turned it into
questionnaires.
jokes.
It's a weird question on a text message. It ends up being a questionnaire. For everybody that can't see, Dan hit his knee or something, and it's hilarious.
Ah, no.
It's like in
My,
so much pain.
my
It's
calf cramped up on me so bad.
He's so old.
Ah.
He drank 5 beers, and he's got too much lactic acid in his feeble ass body.
Oh, that was some super pain. I was gonna hide that from
That
you
was
guys,
hilarious.
but Tim had to point it
That's
out.
so
Like
funny.
I was in some super pain.
So,
Woo! That calf, man, cramped up on me.
there you
You
go.
gotta get bananas in your life, Dan. It's Banana Dan.
Oh.
Okay, well, listen.
All right. Well,
Cavo's family's getting
on
ready
that
to be
note-
murdered.
Dan's gonna
fucking go
Dan's
stretch
cutting
your calves
Dan's
up.
gonna stretch.
Fucking stretch them calves
take
up.
some
Fucking eat some
magnesium
bananas.
baths. Take some bananas. Take down some bananas, and
I'm gonna fucking go take a banana bath.
full throat.
Yeah.
All right. Good night, guys.
Fucking deep throat some
Read
bananas.
those chapters. We'll see you next week.
All right. Peace out.